A very good evening to everyone out there. So my name is Smriti Shah, and on behalf of Vision IS, I welcome you all to the session in which we are going to analyze this year's essay topics. I know this was one of the most awaited session, not because obviously essay per se, but more because of the nature of the questions which were asked this year. Okay. And before we start with this session, there are few things which I really want to highlight. The first and foremost, those of you who have written mains this year, right, please do not get bothered with whatever is being discussed today. The reason why am I emphasizing, because this year there are a lot of topics which have been interpreted by the students in a very different capacities. In fact, when I got to interact with the students who have written this year's mains, there were many students who have written on the same topic, but their interpretation of the topic has been very different. In fact, how we have interpreted the topic is also very different from how the students have interpreted the topic. So at the end of it, how UPSC is going to mark us, we have to wait for the result. Okay? So do not get bothered. Whatever has been done has been done. Right? So you don't need to worry about it. As in, jab result aayega, then we will see what is supposed to be done next. Till that time, do not bother yourself. One thing. Second thing, those who are attending the session, just to have an idea that how the essay topics, specifically philosophical topics, are supposed to be approached, more than welcome. Okay? And those who have already written mains, you can just have an idea that, you know, what could have been written in this topic, what more examples could have been given, how this topic could have been approached, all those things. But then you don't need to bother. Don't take any stress. That is all what is my concern. In fact, you know, I was quite apprehensive before taking this session, not because of the nature of the session, but because of the fact that since so many students have interpreted the topic so differently, I was actually having a lot of apprehension that, you know, what would be the impact on the students. You know, obviously एक वो fear आ जाता है ना कि अब result आने वाला है, I don't know how have I performed and everything, so you just don't worry. वो तो जो result आएगा, anyway result is not in our control, right? So whatever the result would be, that is altogether a different case. ठीक है? But whatever we are discussing, just try to understand the approach. Again, the fact of the matter is that the same thing would not be repeated. However the examples, however the approach, however the idea, the rationale can be borrowed. Is that very clear? Okay, so that has to be kept in mind before watching the session. The second most important aspect is, see, again, I'll reiterate, I have reiterated this in the first session also which I took of this year's, that was with respect to society paper, that listen, it is very different experience altogether to interpret, you know, to try to understand what all perspectives could have been written in a particular topic or in a particular question once the exam is over, right? In a very comfortable zone, you are sitting, you are just, you know, trying to identify, oh, this topic could have been perceived from this approach, it could have been written from this approach, this example could have been written in this, so it is altogether a different ball game. But when you are writing, attempting the topic in the very examination hall on the very given day and under so much of stress, it is altogether a different experience. And without fail, we have to accept the matter of the fact that this year we were stumped. We were not expecting all the 8 questions from the philosophical nature. Okay. So let us assume that this is going to be the trend from next year onwards. There can be a trend also that all the 8 topics are issue-based topic. You never know. UPSC can do anything. Or again, they go back to their previous method that 4 topics or entire section from philosophical and another entire section from issue-based topics. Or it can be that they'll continue with this trend that all the 8 topics are asked from the philosophical nature, the quotation-based topics to be very precise. So let us assume this possibility, okay, that we have to practice philosophical essays no matter what. That's one thing. Second thing is that you have to remove that inertia from your thought process. Key philosophical topics are slightly challenging to attempt. To be very honest, if you remove that inertia, if you have a positive approach towards writing these essays, automatically half of your battle is already won. It is all about the psychological bent of mind, how you are approaching these topics. On a very academic note, if I have to talk about, in your ethics paper also there is one entire question. There are quotations which are given, and they ask you, what do you understand by these quotes? And you never know what kind of quotes and which thinker's quote they would be asking you, right? They might ask you Swami Vivekananda, they might ask you Dalai Lama, they might ask you Nelson Mandela, they might ask you Abraham Lincoln, they might ask you Mahatma Gandhi, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato. Can you predict that what quotation they are going to ask you in ethics paper? No, they can't. You can't do that. Similarly, when it comes down to philosophical topics as far as essay is concerned, even then you cannot predict that what particular quote they would be asking us. The only thing which is a matter of concern is, in ethics paper, the gravity of the situation is not very dense because the marking is limited. Maximum a 30 marker. There are 3 questions, 10 marks each, so 30 marks. But here it's 250 marks which is at stake. So there is a considerable difference. So obviously I totally understand that there would be certain challenges which we would be confronting. But then we have no choice. It is UPSC, we have to be prepared. So rather than worrying about the fact that what UPSC is going to do next, if they ask again all the 8 questions to be from the philosophical topic, how are we going to attempt it? So uske bajaye, let's not bother about it. Let's try to strategize that what is supposed to be done in case the philosophical topic come, and no matter whatever philosophical topic come, how are we supposed to answer that? That should be the next agenda on our list. Is that very clear for it? So on this note, we will be starting today's session. Now again, there might be many of you who are new to this session, who have never watched any session on essay paper previously. So just one disclaimer, today's session is about the analysis of the topics which have been asked this year. And anyway, it is going to take quite a lot of time, right? I'll be analyzing 4 topics today. Okay. So as far as the nuances, the art and science of essay writing is concerned, there is a complete separate session which is there on our YouTube channel. I'll ask the team to put the link in the description box, where from basic I have told that how the essay writing has to be done. That is in context of general essay writing, what is supposed to be done. Today the focus would be specifically on what to do in philosophical essays. Today I am not going to discuss about the issue based essays at all. So the art and science of basic essay writing, if you are looking for that session, there is a separate session for that on our YouTube platform. Today's agenda is very clear. The discussion would be with respect to the topics which are asked in this year's paper, and secondly, it is going to focus on the art and science of writing philosophical essays, to be very precise. Is that clear? Okay. So on this note, let's start with the session. See, this is one thing which I have been saying every now and then, that before preparing for any session or any section for that matter of UPSC, you have to emphasize on certain aspects. For example, when I was taking previous sessions also, I clearly told you that what should be the approach. Same approach has to be applied here. For example, there are 4 pillars when we talk about in general the essay preparation. So there are 4 pillars which needs to be focused upon. One is the syllabus. This I have been saying time and again. No matter which section you are preparing, please pick up the book, the notification, and see what syllabus UPSC has prescribed for that particular section. Because more or less UPSC hovers around the syllabus which is being mentioned. The problem is we do not read the syllabus. So first and foremost, the syllabus has to be read. Second thing is, it is very important to look what kind of topics UPSC has asked in the past, because that will give you a sense of guidance that how you are supposed to channelize your preparation in the future attempts. So it is very important that just go through whatever questions have been asked in the past. For example, hand that rocks the cradle. This topic was asked previously also by UPSC. However, it was 2005 when they have asked the topic. But I'm not asking you to go back 16 years back and I'm just telling you that UPSC does repeat the topic, right? So anyhow, even if they are not repeating the topic, the themes can be repeated, right? So you need to go through previous year topics just to get an idea how you are supposed to channelize your preparation. Third and most important aspect is content preparation. See, this aspect of content preparation I'll discuss at the end of the session once I'm done with all the analysis, that how you are supposed to consolidate your content. Because many a times the student do come to us by asking what book to read, what extra is supposed to be done, what content, is there any book for essay only specifically. So I have been saying this every passing year that there is no standard book for essay, and if you've seen this year's paper, no book would have helped you. Obviously, if you are into reading and you've been reading about different leaders, you've been reading biographies, you've reading different philosophies, that would have definitely helped you. But specifically कोई market से Lakshmikant type book उठाकर for essay writing, that will not work. That will not serve our purpose. Is that clear? You don't need to worry. Whenever I highlight a problem, I do provide a solution. So by the end of today's session, I am hoping that you will get a clarity that how philosophical topics are supposed to be answered. Is that clear? Okay. So that is one thing. And finally, it is all about the writing practice. Again, my favorite line, which says that if you want to bleed less in war, you need to sweat more in peace. The more you practice, the more you get hang of it. Trust me, it is all in your mind. How will I write 1200 words? I have never ever written an essay in my life. I am always a science background student. So कैसे manage हो? सब हो जाता है. Try तो करो, start तो करो, ठीक है? A journey of 1000 miles starts from the first step. So if you have to travel that journey of 1000 miles, you have to clear this examination, you have to take that first step. So take that first step and start writing the essays. Trust me, it is not that difficult a game also. Is that very clear? Okay? So try to focus on all those 4 aspects. With respect to content consolidation, I'll tell you in the end of the session. Very quickly, just a brief overview of what is the syllabus, just to give you an idea. If you read the syllabus carefully on the screen, it says the candidates are expected to keep as close to the subject of the essay. Whatever the topic is being given, you are expected to remain as close to the topic as possible. Whatever ideas that you are presenting, those ideas have to be arranged in orderly fashion. Third, you have to write the arguments in a very concise manner. And fourth, credit will be given for exact and effective expression. Very briefly, do they have mentioned anywhere economy, polity, society, ethics, culture, geography, IR, security? No, they haven't. So that means this kind of content they are not looking for specifically in essay, because this you are already preparing. That is why they have not highlighted. But you are preparing na GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 and your optional. So that is why they have not repeated themselves. They have not reiterated, because it is assumed that you are preparing yourself with respect to basic polity, economy, culture and ethics, everything. What they are looking for is whatever content that you have prepared so far, to what extent you are able to use that content so that you remain as close to the topic of the essay. To what extent you are able to present your arguments in an orderly fashion. How crisp is your content? You are not beating around the bush. You are directly hitting the bullseye. So that is, you're writing in a very crisp, in a very concise manner. You are remaining very specific to the demand of the essay. Close इसलिए बोलते हैं क्योंकि थोड़ी subjectivity होती है, तो exactly everyone is not going to write the same thing. But you should try to remain close. Whatever interpretation that you are making of a respective topic, it should be within the boundary of the context of that topic. ये नहीं that you can hover any which where, any which tangent as you please to do. ऐसा नहीं करना होता है, ठीक है? And lastly, they are trying to lure you. They are making this deal quite lucrative by telling you exactly that if you write exact expression, if you write that exact expression with lot of effective value rich content, credit would definitely be given to you. So they have made themselves very clear what they are exactly looking for in your essay. Now the ball is in your court, to what extent you are able to meet this criteria. As simple as that. Is this very clear? ठीक है. Now, I would not further delve into the detailing what is a good essay, how to write a good essay. वो सब बात की बात, उसके लिए एक separate session है. However, today we are going to write essays, right? So there has to be basic understanding that how the broad essay looks like. Is that very clear? ठीक है. So the broad essay, if I talk about, I hope this is visible for everyone. There are three components in the essay. You have an introduction, you have a body, and you have a conclusion. I'm saying all of this before starting, just to give an idea that how we are supposed to proceed, so that when you are seeing the content, there would not be any problem. If you read what is being written on the screen, it is only to give you a clarity. See, many a times, lot of us have a confusion. What exactly constitutes the introduction? From where the body of the essay starts? How and what is supposed to be written in the conclusion? This is very common question which is being asked by most of the aspirants. So in very basic layman language, if I have to tell you what constitutes the introduction, so it is the collection where you are telling the examiner, the reader, what you are going to tell them in the essay. Is that very clear? In simple words, have you ever seen the trailer of a movie? So in simple words, if I have to draw an analogy of the introduction of the essay with any other thing, the best analogy, in my opinion, let's not use the word best, there is always a better practice to best practices. So yeah, so it could be the trailer of the movie. So it is nothing but the trailer of the movie. Have you ever seen the trailer? What is the purpose of the trailer? It has to be very interesting. It has to be captivating. It should be good enough to hold the attention of the audience, because that would determine the fact whether the audience is going to watch the movie or not. Similarly, your introduction needs to be interesting. It needs to be captivating. It should be good enough to hold the attention of the examiner or the reader, so that he has that interest, he has that inquisitiveness, curiosity to further read your essay. That is the importance of the introduction. If your introduction is not captivating, it is not interesting, already the battle is lost. So make sure your introduction is very well written. So it has to be captivating and interesting. At the same time, have you seen what is the purpose of the trailer? Just to make it captivating and interesting? No. It gives the audience an insight what they can expect from the movie without revealing too much. Obviously, they cannot reveal the entire plot of the movie. They can't reveal the, the nitty-gritties of the movie. Otherwise, why would you go pay and watch the movie of 3 hours? Why would you do that? Nahin na. But then definitely you should know what plot movie is having, an overall idea, what genre it is belonging to, because that would determine whether you will go and watch it or not. Similarly, introduction needs to give the insight to the examiner what he or she can expect from our essay. So an insight has to be provided. An insight has to be provided with respect to what the examiner can expect from our essay. So an insight has to be provided with respect to what an examiner can expect from our essay. Is that very clear? Once you have written a good, interesting introduction, half of the battle is won. So well begin is half done. Is that very clear? Then we come down to the body where we actually tell them, which we have already mentioned what we are going to tell them. Now we will tell them in detail. कि सिर्फ हम बात नहीं कर रहे थे, we are telling you in detail what we have already discussed in the introduction. And once you have told them everything in detail, so based on what you have told them, we will try to provide a futuristic vision. Is that very clear? I am giving you this broad idea so that when I discuss in detail the introduction, body and conclusion of different essay topics, you will get an idea why that aspect has been written in the introduction, why in body or why in conclusion. Is that very clear for everyone? So if you look at here, so what is introduction all about? You are telling the examiner what you are going to tell them. So exactly what you are doing in the introduction, make sure that your introduction is relevant to the theme of the essays. These are few prescriptions which I am providing. That whenever you are writing the introduction, make sure your introduction is relevant to the theme of the essay. And not only it is relevant to the theme of the essay, it is also suggesting to the examiner what is your idea about that particular essay, how you are going to approach the essay. There is a topic which is given, XYZ topic. Maybe you are approaching the topic from a different aspect. You are taking a broader perspective, a holistic perspective, or a narrowed perspective, totally your wish, right? So one is it should be relevant to whatever question has been asked. Second, it is telling the examiner what is your approach to the topic. And finally, it should be captivating and interesting, as I have already mentioned. If you look at the body, first, it needs to be multidimensional. It is very important. If it could have been unidimensional, they wouldn't have asked you in essay. They are asking you the topic in essay because they want to see how you can approach the particular topic from different dimensions. That is what they are looking for. How to make the essay multidimensional, we will just see in few minutes. And next, you need to make sure that whatever is your point of view, you are justifying your point of view through arguments, through examples, through information, whichever way is suiting you. But whatever is your point of view, you need to justify that in the body. And not only you have to justify, at the same time you have to convince the reader with respect to your viewpoint. यहाँ पे सब्जेक्टिविटी आती है. कभी कभी a particular topic can be approached from different dimensions, but while approaching those topic from a different dimension, make sure that whatever is your point of view, you are successfully able to convince the reader with respect to your point of view. Essay is all about convincing. If you fail to persuade the reader with respect to your viewpoint with which you have approached the topic, the purpose is defeated. You need to persuade the other person. You need to justify your arguments. You have to justify your point of view. Is that clear? And based on, finally, if I look at the conclusion, make sure, largely, this I am giving you a very mechanical approach, as in Rambana bolte hain na, panacea. Make sure that in conclusion, you are providing the prescription. You will never go wrong. बहुत बार there is a confusion what to write in conclusion, how it is supposed to be written, should it be a summary, should we summarize or not. सब कुछ छोड़ो. You just need to focus on one aspect, and that is it should be prescriptive in nature. Is that clear? You have to suggest a futuristic vision. You have to suggest way forward. You have to suggest an optimistic approach that if you have highlighted the problem, then what is supposed to be done. You are going to be an administrator. You have to have a leadership quality. You cannot just highlight the problem and just go away with it. You have to provide the solution. You have to provide the prescription. Is that very clear? That is the bottom line. Is it making sense for everyone? Okay. Did you understand? See, at the end of the session, if you are still remaining with certain doubts, you feel free to write all your doubts in the chat box. I will answer to those doubts related to the art of essay writing. Okay. Do not ask the questions right now. The team, just let me finish with the session, and if the students have any specific doubts, please forward it to me. Is that clear? So did you understand what is introduction, body and conclusion? A broad idea. Okay. Now you might be having ideas about, or you might be having question, ma'am quote लिख सकते हैं कि नहीं, anecdote लिख सकते हैं कि नहीं. So just one point, again I will just revisit, please watch the previous sessions. Okay. And anyway, when I'm discussing particular topics, I will tell you how it is supposed to be written. Is that very clear for everyone? Now overall, if we have to look at the structure of the essay in general, nothing to do with philosophical, in general, if we have to look how essay structure looks like, this is how it looks like. And trust me, you will never go wrong with this. See, introduction, just for having a clarity, I have divided introduction in 3 parts, just to give you a clarity. Overall, if you look at the structure, this is how the essay should look like. If I have to arrange my essay on one page, this is how it looks like. The introduction somewhere around 150 to 200 words, conclusion somewhere around 100 to 150 words. If you have written one statement conclusion, that is not the conclusion, because conclusion in itself has 2 parts. One is the penultimate conclusion, and last is the ultimate conclusion. Penultimate conclusion is nothing but the way forward or the prescription which I was talking about. And based on the way forward or prescription, what is your overall observation or inference that you have drawn from the topic? Overall inference that you have drawn from the topic becomes the ultimate conclusion, and then you have the body, right? So introduction somewhere around 150 to 200 words, conclusion somewhere around 100 to 150 words, and remaining is the body. So round about 1150 to 1200 words you have to write the essay. Now you must be asking me, ma'am, इस बार के तो philosophical topics में बन ही नहीं रहे हैं 1200 word. So it's okay, it's absolutely no issues. What matters is the quality of the content. So even if you are writing somewhere around 900 to 1000 words, even then it is fine. What matters is the quality. But if you are bothering about the quality, that doesn't mean that you can totally compromise on the quantity कि 500-600 words में लिख कर आ गए. ऐसा नहीं होता है, ठीक है. So make sure at least 900-2000 words is something that you've written on the paper. ठीक है. And that is why you are choosing a topic. See, if you're not able to think, that is something absolutely beyond our control. So we can't help that. तो उसमें इतना परेशान मत हो. But make sure at least 900 to 1000 words आप लिखो. Is that very clear? ठीक है. Overall, this should be the structure of your essay. So if you look at the introduction, it has 3 parts to it. The first part is either your anecdote, quote, premise based on which the topic is there, definition of the concepts, or any kind of report. I'm just giving you an example. Anecdote in itself, quotation in itself, ठीक है, premise in itself is not the complete introduction. This is just the first part of your introduction. Once you have written that first part, in the second part of the introduction, you have to link it with the theme of the essay. I will show with example. In every topic that I am going to discuss with you, I will show that how the first part has to be linked with the theme of the essay. And finally, you are telling the examiner what can be expected in the essay. Once you have told the examiner what can be expected, all that you have told him will be answered in the body. This doesn't mean that you can use the bullet points. Bullet points should not be used. I'm generally saying that these are the different paragraphs that you will be writing in the body. And all those aspects which you have told the examiner you are going to discuss, you will discuss in the body. Once you have discussed the body, based on that, in the penultimate paragraph of the conclusion, you are going to provide the way forward or the prescription. And based on whatever you have prescribed, whatever problems you have highlighted, whatever you have written in your essay, what is your overall inference that you have drawn? कहते नहीं overall punchline, एक वो last observation. Having said that, what is your ultimate observation? ठीक है? So that last takeaway that you mention is the last concluding remark that is supposed to be written. So this is how broadly the structuring of the essay should look like. Now we are going to proceed with the respective topics. I hope till here you have got an idea. See, I am not delving in much into detailing, but this is basic minimum which is supposed to be told. Otherwise, you will not understand what is written in the essays. Is that very clear? So, एक broad structuring clear है. कहीं कोई doubt हो, feel free to ask. At the end of the session, we will have 10 minutes question answer session. You can ask all possible doubts. Just a sec. See, this is my personal observation. Whenever I read a philosophical quote, ठीक है, even in the ethics paper also, this was my approach. In fact, to be very honest, when I was discussing ethics में moral thinkers पे question, this approach actually I kind of thought in that aspect. And then I realized that if it can be used in the quotation based aspect of ethics paper, it can also be used in your essay writing on philosophical topics. So if you read all the 4 points, you will get an idea what I'm trying to say. The first and foremost is the interpretation. A quotation is given to you. This is the SAR. This is the crux of attempting philosophical topic. And trust me, have faith in me. If you are investing your 2 hours today, just have faith in us. You will get the takeaways. Okay, just try to understand what I'm trying to elaborate on. The first and foremost aspect, what is your interpretation of the topic? First, you need to interpret the topic. Is that clear? Obviously, what you are understanding from the topic, that has to be clear. that after reading a particular quote, hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, what is your interpretation of the topic? What have you interpreted with respect to that topic? Do you know the context in which the statement was given? Did you know that it was a part of a poem which was being written by William Ross? Do you know that this statement was basically celebrating motherhood? It was trying to emphasize on the role a mother plays in shaping the destiny of the nation or of the world. How it plays a very significant role in socializing the children who are the future of the nation and the world in general. So do you know what is your interpretation of the topic? Do you know the context in which the topic was given? So what is your understanding? What is your interpretation of the topic? Is that very clear? ठीक है. Second is, once you have interpreted the topic, you have interpreted. The interpretation has to be done for yourself. खुद को पता होना चाहिए ना कि क्या करना है. Once you have interpreted the topic for yourself, the second stage is you have to explain the topic. Explain the topic to the person who's reading your essay. I have interpreted. क्या करें आप? रख लें खुद ही के इंटरप्रिटेशन के लिए. नहीं मार्क्स चाहिए भाई. हम यहाँ पे we are here with only sole objective of scoring marks, okay, in the examination. So once you have interpreted the topic, then your task is to explain the topic to the person who's reading. ठीक है. Then once you have explained the topic, what is the credibility of your explanation? Who are you? Are you William Ross? Obviously, even if you know that this poem is picked up from William Ross' poem or this statement, or even if you know what was the context, or even if you didn't know, the purpose is that if you are explaining something to the person, what is the credibility of your explanation? That means you have to substantiate it. So the third step comes, that is exemplification. Via means of examples from different walks of life, I will convince my reader with respect to the explanation which I have given to you based on my interpretation of the topic. Is that very clear? Clear है? Stages clear हुई. पहले खुद interpret करो क्या तुमको समझ आया. ठीक है. Based on the interpretation, try to explain it to the person who's reading your essay, right? Then in order to give credibility to your explanation, try to give examples from different walks of life. Is that clear? Last is that, do you understand when a quote is being given to you, it is trying to provide you a wisdom. It is trying to provide you some learning. It is trying to provide you some value. When it says, hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, when it says that the process of self-discovery has been outsourced to technology, when it says that the perception of me is reflection of you and my reaction to you is awareness of me, is that very clear? There are better practices to best practices. Do you understand? It is a learning. It's a statement which is being provided, right? So if you agree to the statement, if you believe, yes, hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. If you agree to this, if you believe that there are better practices to best practices, if you believe, whatever is your belief, ठीक है, even if you are providing an alternate dimension to it, ठीक है, so whatever is your ultimate learning, you have to provide a prescription how to ensure that learning in the society. How to ensure that you develop a right kind of attitude, how to ensure that you have a right kind of value system, how to ensure that you are always looking to do something innovative and creative, how to ensure that you have a right kind of mindset and attitude towards the other people in the society. So based on your learning, whatever has been your approach to these topics, you have to write a prescription that this is what which is supposed to be done. Is that very clear? This is how the philosophical essay can be broken down. And trust me, pick up any topic from the UPSC. Do not look for some random topics. सबसे आसान तरीका पिछले 5 साल से, ठीक है, जो भी UPSC में टॉपिक्स आए हैं, और अगर फिलोसॉफिकल उठाना है तो पिछले 3 साल 4 साल से उठा लो, and look for those philosophical topics and try to answer them. First, look for the interpretation of the topic, what you have understood. Try to explain your understanding about the topic, justify your explanation through examples, and based on your takeaway, based on your learning about that particular quotation or particular philosophy, provide a prescription. Trust me, you will never go wrong. Is that very clear for everyone? This is what is a general approach I was talking about. What do you understand by the quote? Do you agree with the statement? Many a times it might happen you don't agree. There was a topic, I remember, quick but steady wins the race. There were many who said, nahi, I don't agree. It's okay if you don't agree. If you don't agree, justify. If you agree, justify. At the end of it, what matters is, are you able to justify the statement through various examples from different walks of life or not? And ultimately, what do you prescribe based on the wisdom which is provided by the quote? Is that very clear? So I have elaborated this. What I have written here, I have elaborated this approach for you so that if months later you watch this PPT, you should not have any doubt. You don't have to revisit the lecture. And second most important thing, the PPT would be available to you once the session is over. So you don't need to worry. That's the first topic that we are taking up. Let's start with the official discussion. This is the topic that we are going to take up. Perception of me is reflection of you. My reaction to you is an awareness of me. I give you 2 minutes. Try to sink in this topic. क्या point है discussion करने का? If you don't even understand what are we discussing about, take 2 minutes. Read the topic again. Perception of me is reflection of you, and my reaction to you is an awareness of me. Okay. If you troll me on social media, if you make personal attacks against me, if you call me names on social media, it has nothing to do with me. It is actually showing what kind of personality you have, what kind of value system you possess. So basically that trolling which is happening on social media is nothing to do with the person against whom that troll has been initiated. It is more to do with the belief system, with the mindset of the person who's trolling. कितनी अच्छी feeling आएगी ना सोचकर. This is actually for you to realize that if somebody mocks you, if someone is always angry with you and you've not done anything wrong, see, if you've done something wrong, that is a different issue. Okay? But if you've not said anything, you've not done anything, most importantly, you don't even know the other person. Even then that person is busy mocking at you, the person is trolling you, the person is calling out names to you, the person is having certain hatred against you. So it has nothing to do with you. It is actually evidence of the lacking personality which the other person is having. So perception of me is reflection of you. बचपन में नहीं सीखते थे मेरी तरफ उंगली मत पॉइंट करना. The moment you point a finger at me, there are 3 fingers which is pointing against you. Right? बचपन में करते थे ना ये सब, उंगली मत दिखाओ, don't point fingers at me. तो फिर मम्मी क्या समझाती थी, नहीं नहीं बेटा, even if that person is showing you the finger, do you realize 3 fingers are pointing towards him only? हम कितने खुश हो जाते थे, हाँ हाँ बिल्कुल सही है. Did you understand? Right? So when someone is having a negative perception about me, right, I don't need to get bothered about it, because that has nothing to do with me. It is actually the reflection of the personality of the other person. However, what kind of response I am going to give to the other person will definitely determine to what aspect or to what extent I am aware. Whether I choose to be offensive, I am offended, how dare you say such things. I started retaliating, how did you call me out names? I will also call you out names. Did you get the point? Did I get perturbed? Did I get wavered? Nahi. Have I started doubting myself? If somebody on that open session wrote that, Arey, she doesn't know anything, what bakwas lecture? Am I getting bothered about it? Am I doubting my capabilities about it? Am I retaliating, how dare you write this on my session? How dare you call me out names? Did you get my point? So what is going to be my reaction to the perception that a person is holding against me will definitely determine my awareness. So did you understand one thing? You should not be bothered about those aspects which are beyond your control. What kind of mindset the other person is having about me, that is beyond my control. I should not be bothered about it. But yes, the reaction to that perception is definitely within my control. That is what I need to work upon. I need to make sure I am unperturbed. I need to make sure that it is not having the capability to destroy my peace of mind. I need to make sure that I don't become offensive. I don't either go on the defensive mode also. I need to let my work, my actions do the talking rather than indulging myself into the discussions with other people. Did you understand? I need to be emotionally intelligent. Did you understand? Somebody is angry with me. Somebody is shouting at me. Instead of getting further angry, instead of retaliating, I need to empathize with the person. I need to think. I need to put myself in the shoes of the other person. Why is he responding like this? Is he going through any problem in his life? Is he going through any turmoil? I need to empathize. And to what extent I'm going to empathize, that is going to determine my level of awareness. I should not be bothered about the perception. क्योंकि उस पे तो मेरा कंट्रोल ही नहीं है ना. आप कुछ भी सोच सकते हो मेरे बारे में, मैं उसका क्या कर लूंगी. ठीक है. So that is what I'm trying to say, that you also should not be bothered. So this essay basically has two components. First, perception of me is reflection of you. मैंने यहाँ से पल्ला झाड़ दिया भैया. So whatever you are perceiving about me has nothing to do with me. It is the reflection about you. Is that clear? However, how I'm choosing to react to your perception definitely is going to determine, to say words about my level of awareness. This is my interpretation of the topic. You can totally have a different interpretation. I am just telling you how to use those four techniques: interpretation, explanation, exemplification, and prescription. So this is the interpretation that we are having. Now, I told you your introduction needs to be captivating. There are different ways of introducing the content. You can choose to introduce the content via anecdote, via quotation, through premise, whichever way you are comfortable. That's your choice. This is the anecdote which I chose to start the essay with. Obviously, there would be subjectivity. You can choose to write any other anecdote. I'm giving you 5 minutes since I wanted to write the entire anecdote on one page. So that is why I've written it like this. Thoda time lagega, but aram se padho. It's an interesting anecdote. The grey-haired Sudha Murthy, dressed in a plain salwar kameez, was sitting in the boarding area at London airport. She stood up to join the queue for the business class flight to Bangalore after the boarding announcement was made. The moment Sudha Murthy stepped out of the queue to get some water from the nearby water dispenser, the woman in front of her turned sideways, approached her in an uncanny manner, and asked her to show her boarding pass. Well, this line is meant for the business class travelers only, the woman said very confidently. Pointing her finger towards the economy class queue, she said, "You should go there and stand." Instead of furthering the conversation with the woman, Sudha Murthy moved forward in the queue. The women were eagerly waiting to see what would happen when she will hand over her boarding pass to the attendant. However, the attendant smiled, greeted her, and moved on to the next traveler. The story indicates that the lady who judged Sudha Murthy just on the basis of her simple attire is the reflection of her prejudices, perception, preconceived notions about dressing style being the indicator of success and money. On the other hand, a very poised reaction of Mrs. Murthy tells a lot about her awareness about herself. How her success will do all the talking without indulging with ignorant people. did you understand the anecdote? In fact, I found that this anecdote was explaining the entire topic in a very comprehensive manner. Is that very clear? Now just hold. The anecdote ends here. Why did I choose to write like this? See, if I'm telling you something, I will show that it is possible to write it like that. However, again, I'll reiterate, this is not a model essay. You should have your own approach to writing the essays. Now, till here is the anecdote. This is part 1 of the introduction. However, you cannot leave the anecdote. You have to link the anecdote to the demand of the essay. So if you notice in the last paragraph, we have linked the anecdote to the demand of the essay, that how the lady who judged is a reflection of her prejudices, preconceived notion. However, the reaction of Sudha Murthy tells the level of awareness about herself. Is this very clear? So how the anecdote was not left, it was linked to the theme of the essay. Is that clear? Is it making sense for everyone out there? आपको बहुत टाइम मिलेगा, आप खुद भी पढ़ सकते हो आराम से once the session is over. Now read this. It's a story about Saint and Scorpio. Obviously there is no one way of writing the essays introduction. There can be innumerable way. तो मैंने 2-3 तरीके के ways provide कराए हैं. On the similar lines, you can think of some other ways also. Saint and Scorpio. Once a saint carefully picked up a struggling scorpion. Read. Trying to rescue it out from the water. But as he was just about to set it on the land, the scorpion stung his finger. The sharp pain from the sting made the saint instinctively fling his hand, and the scorpion went flying back into the water. As soon as the saint gained his composure from the pain, he attempted to rescue the troubled creature again. But as earlier, scorpion again stung him before he could safely keep it on the land. And this affair was repeated several times as the saint continued his attempt to save the scorpion while the creature attacked its savior every time. The story ends here. The last para is the linkage to the theme of the essay. This story is an example of how creature's reaction to someone, any creature's reaction to someone is its inherent feature. It is the reflection of his behavior. However, the saint's reaction of saving the scorpion is the awareness of saint about himself regarding what he considers as right. Is this very clear for everyone? Is it making sense? However, if you are not able to think about the anecdotes, you can make use of the quotations as well. There are different quotations. The outer world and everything in it is just a mirror of our inner world. How you perceive the outer world has nothing to do with the outer world. It is the reflection, it is the mirror of your inner world. We exist for each other as mirrors. Is that clear? If you hate a person, you hate something in him that is a part of yourself. What isn't a part of ourself doesn't disturb us. So if you hate a person, you are hating something in him which is bothering you. So it has to do something of yourself, because if it is not a part of your own self, it will never disturb us. That's a saying. So you can make use of these quotations in introducing your essay. Is that clear? However, this is the third part of the introduction, where you tell, once you have introduced, second you have linked it with the demand of the topic, and finally in the third part of the introduction, abhi tak hum introduction pe hi hain. In this essay we will explore the following aspects. Now, this I have been saying in my previous sessions as well. And this is nothing to do just with the philosophical essay. Philosophical essay is more to do with interpretation, explanation and all that. But if you look at this brainstorming, this is what I was talking about in general. The moment you see the topic, once you have understood the interpretation of the topic, now you intend to explain it. Now, while explaining, what dimensions you are choosing. I told you now, I have to make the essay multidimensional. So what dimensions are you choosing to explain the topic? That is totally your choice. And what I do, what I'm telling you about my strategy, you can absolutely have your own strategy. The moment I read any topic, I try to ask myself certain questions. And whatever questions that I ask myself becomes the structure of the essay for me. Okay, this is how, it's a standard approach which I've been following, right? So the moment I read the quotation, the first thing I asked myself, what do you mean by perception? The first thing, भाई दिमाग में आएगा ना कि ये perception क्या होता है? What are the factors which impacts this concept of perception? To what extent our perception about other people is impacted by our traits? Do I have examples to justify my arguments? And how our reaction is the reflection of our awareness? Do I have examples for that? What do I prescribe based on this understanding of the quotation? I have agreed with the quote. That is what I have shown. That the perception of others is the reflection of your own traits. I have shown it with examples. I have also agreed to the statement that the reaction to that perception is the awareness about your own. It's the level of awareness that you have, right? And that also has been shown by the means of examples. Now, based on the understanding of the quote, what do I prescribe for the people, for the readers? Is this very clear? Read again. Read again these statements. You will get an idea. What do you mean by perception? What are the factors which impacts the concept of perception? To what extent perception of others is impacted by our traits? Examples to justify the arguments. How our reaction is reflection of our awareness. How do we prescribe, or what do we prescribe based on the wisdom? Simple understanding. What do you mean by prescription? भैया 1200 words लिखने हैं, कुछ तो लिखना ही पड़ेगा ना. So what do you mean by perception? ठीक है? So perception is nothing but it's a mental process through which you are forming the impressions about others. And not only the impression about others, but also you are drawing conclusions based on those impressions. My perception of you. Perception is a mental process through which I am forming impressions about you. What kind of impression I am having of you. And not only about the impression, based on impression, what are the larger conclusions that I am drawing about you. That is what is perception. So perception is a mental process. Is that clear? So it's a mental process which guides me to form impressions about you. And based on that impression, what is my larger conclusion? Or she's a very hardworking girl. Okay? Or she is not at all hardworking, or whatsoever. Okay? So that is what I'm trying to say. Now, what are the factors which impacts this process of perception? See, it's a subjective process, right? There can be multiple factors, there can be various variables which are determining the perception that a person is having about the other person. It can definitely, it has to do with the characteristic of the other person. Okay? If I am developing a perception towards this X person, so it has to do something with the characteristic of the X person. It can be based on the context in which that perception is getting developed. Something has happened. So in that situational context also can determine my perception about this X person. However, it is also to do with the trait of the person who's developing the perception. It also has to do with my past experience of what kind of perception I'm developing for this X person. In this topic, the focus has to be how the perception is shaped by the experiences, by the traits of the person who's holding that perception. Is that very clear? So what do you mean by perception? What are the factors which impacts the perception? So it is the last line that needs to be focused upon, your own personal traits as well as your own past experiences. Is this clear? Now, how and why it is your traits which affects the perception that you develop about others? ऐसा क्यों है कि हमारे traits rather than the characteristic of the person towards whom we are developing a perception, it is our traits which are influencing the perception that we are having. That's because it is your beliefs, your attitude, your value system which will determine how you are going to approach new things in life. It is going to determine how you are going to evaluate people and circumstances in your life. What kind of value system you are holding, that has a very significant impact. What your belief system is, what is your attitude, what is your value system, is definitely going to determine how you are approaching new things in your life, how you are evaluating new people in your life, how you are looking at various circumstances or situations in your life. Second, when you meet someone, you actually don't see them for who they are. You see them from the prism of your own experiences. You see them from the prism of your own personality trait. Hindi, चोर को सारी दुनिया चोर ही लगती है. Is that very clear? The moment you see a person being very generous, the first thing, why is being so nice? There is definitely some vested interest. आज के ज़माने में कौन किसका भला करता है without any vested interest? बोलते हैं ना लोग ये बातें. Someone is doing good for you. The moment someone is being nice to you, being good to you, the first thing that pop in your mind, how can someone be so nice in this capitalistic consumerist world? Definitely he has or she has some vested interest. That can be because either you have never done anything selflessly for the other person, or in your past you always have had the experiences with such people who are being very self-centered. So when you look at someone, it is not for who they are. You look at the other person, when you meet the other person, so whatever the person say, whatever the person does, it is being seen from the prism of your own personality traits. It's being seen from the prism of your own experiences. Is that very clear? Many a times when you meet someone in person, it can trigger some old memories. It can trigger some emotions. It can trigger some experiences that you have had in the past. So because of all these factors, what perception you have about others is largely shaped by your own traits, by your own experiences, by your own value system. It has less to do with the characteristic of the other person. It has more to do with your personal experiences, your value system, your personality traits. Is this very clear? Is it making sense? Sometimes your perception about others is not only about your traits, it can also to do with the situation. It can also to do with the mood in which you are when you first spoke to that person. So if you have a negative opinion of me that's based on nothing which I actually did or said, is the proof of what kind of negativity you are carrying inside. Hence, perception of me is reflection of you. So based on my interpretation of the topic, I have explained the first part of the essay. Is that very clear? Did you understand what explanation means? Can you see the बड़ी मेहनत लगी है यार पूरा ऐसे बनाने में, समझ आ रहा है ना, बस इतना बता दो. However, the second part, the way I choose to react to your opinion, your perception about me and your judgments definitely tells about what kind of person I am. Whether I choose to respond or I choose to retaliate, whether I am on the defensive mode or I have taken an offense to it, whether I remain unperturbed or I have become nervous, whether I am still confident or I am doubting my capabilities, whether I have become revengeful or I am empathizing with you, that maybe you are going through certain problems in your life and that is why you are having certain preconceived notions or prejudices or judgments about me. Is that very clear? So what kind of reaction I will have to your opinion is going to tell what kind of a person I am. Is this clear? It's a peculiar quality of a fool to perceive the faults of others and to forget his own. You can't clear your own field while you are counting the rocks on your neighbor's farm. Did you understand the quotation? This quotation is to give an overall understanding of the topic, that it's a quality of a fool to perceive the faults of others and to forget your own. Hence, once you become comfortable with your own self, then you don't look for flaws in others. In fact, you try to look at your own faults and rectify it. In fact, that's the path to self-awareness. So once you become comfortable in your own skin, once you become comfortable with your own progress, with your own personality, then you stop being judgmental about others, because now you are in a very secure space. You become more inward looking, right? You be the change that you want to see in the world. Rather than blaming others, rather than aiming to change others, you start the change from within. You become inward looking. Is that very clear? In fact, that's the path to self-awareness. We realize that somebody's attitude, response to me, whether good or bad, is just the reflection of their beliefs, their core values, and how I choose to react directly proportional to my self-awareness. That is the overall understanding of the topic. So whether you have a good perception about me or a bad perception about me, both the cases, it is less to do with me. It is more to do with your personality. However, my reaction to it is definitely my level of self-awareness. It is directly proportional to my self-awareness. Is this clear? Now, I have explained the topic. Enough of explanation. However, what is the credibility of my explanation? So in order to give some credibility to my explanation, I have chosen certain examples. Read the first example, cyberbullying. The internet and social media has given us a bigger platform to amplify our criticism. The content creators today receive nasty and hateful comments. Given the anonymity internet offers, cyberbullying has increased by many folds. But it gives us a very useful insight that the person who is hiding behind the screen and writing hateful comments isn't giving a description of the content creator or the person, but is just reflecting his own failures and insecurities. Bullying has no way a correct description of the victim. So this troll culture which I was talking about in the beginning of the essay, is this what I meant? That it is less to do with the content creator, the victim against whom the bullying is happening. It is more to do with the nature, the personality of the person who is indulging in the troll culture. Is that very clear? Next example. The religious, regional, or any kind of caste-based bigotry, which is a very common phenomena in context of Indian society. So today our society faces unreasonable attachment to a belief, opinion or faction. Do we agree to this? Abhi to bahut kuch chal raha hai. So you will be able to relate to it. So today our society faces obstinate or unreasonable attachment to a belief, opinion or faction. In particular, prejudice against a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular group. Whether he belongs to a certain religion, whether he belongs to a certain region, whether he belongs to a certain caste, we have developed a prejudiced attitude towards them. For example, if someone hates a particular race or a person from a particular religion, it is because they are insecure about their own identity. It is because they are harboring more deep hidden resentments. It is their socialization with respect to negative value system that has led to this hate. It has nothing to do with the character of a person who is belonging to that race, religion or caste. So if I have a certain attitude towards a racial minority or a religious minority or a certain caste group, it is less to do with them. It is more to do with my own value system. You can pick up the examples from different walks of life in order to justify the argument. Similarly, at societal level, the debate which is existing with respect to death penalty. If we as a society become vindictive and choose retributive justice over reformative justice, it is just the reflection that we as a society haven't grown. A person might have committed a crime, but we have to choose not to react in the same way, but choose reformative justice, and it will be reflection of an advanced society. So it is not only with respect to the individual example, it can also be with respect to community example, which we have just seen. It can also be the larger example with respect to the nation or the society. Is this clear? Then concept of non-violence. Non-violence is the personal practice of not causing harm to others under any condition. The other person who is inflicting violence is just doing it because of his beliefs and preconceived notions. But if we choose not to react with the violence, then that is our awareness, our belief and attitude. Remember, Gandhiji said, an eye for an eye will make the entire world blind. So the concept of non-violence. So if other person is choosing violence, that is their value system. And if you choose not to indulge in non-violence, that is your level of awareness. Is that very clear? It is your level of belief and attitude. If you suspend your non-cooperation movement after Chauri Chaura incident, that shows your level of awareness. Did you understand what I meant? Communal polarization of votes. Actually, this is also a very relevant topic given the current situation. It is often seen that when elections are round the corner, communal polarization is done by the politicians. But the hate speeches don't have the same effect everywhere. Some areas, some neighborhood totally prohibit themselves to react to such bigotry. Divisive speeches are reflection of few leaders, how for narrow gains they try to create division in the society. It has nothing to do with religious diversity. It has nothing to do with the people belonging to those religious groups. It is more to do with the narrow perception, the low ethics, morality of those few politicians, political fringe elements who are trying to make use or fan the narrow sectarian sentiments of the ignorant masses just to fulfill their vested interest. Is that very clear? But how people react to these hate speeches, divisive speeches, it will determine their level of awareness and socialization. There was a study by Ashutosh Varshni which once illustrated that Lucknow, Jaipur have not experienced communal riots, whereas Delhi, Ahmedabad have, because it is on the basis of the level of awareness and the socialization of the people there. Is this clear? Not only these general examples, you can choose example from the individual life as well. For example, Fogart sisters. For example, Elon Musk. Fogart sister, अब तो सभी ने देख ली है यार movie. So Fogart sister faced lot of criticism for taking up so-called men's sport. Their father, in spite of lot of criticism, chose to reply them with the success of his daughters. Similarly, Elon Musk is infamous for his foray into unconventional technologies, but he always choose not to react to the criticism, but giving reaction in the form of success. So obviously you can choose more examples. There cannot be a limit. ठीक है? Finally, conclusion. Conclusion needs to be prescriptive. So can you see the prescription here? One should be aware of the fact that the preconceived notions, hate, negativity of other people is more about them than you. Live your life proud and free to explore, appreciate, and show your authentic self, knowing that you can't do much to help improve other people's opinion of you is freeing. It's liberating. So what needs to be done? The need of the hour. This is what you want to or you should elaborate upon. I have not elaborated on this because otherwise और ज़्यादा बड़ा हो. Don't have to write every example, right? Whichever example you can remember, but at least 4 to 5 examples should be written so as to make your body, as in body of your essay, sufficiently comprehensive. ठीक है ना? और जितने एग्जाम्पल चूज करोगे अपने आप 1200 वर्ड्स हो जाते हैं. तो जब कोई कहता है ना 1200 वर्ड नहीं हो रहे हैं, दैट्स मोर बिकॉज वी आर नॉट एबल टू थिंक ऑफ द एग्जाम्पल्स, वी आर नॉट एबल टू फॉर्म क्वेश्चंस आउट ऑफ दैट टॉपिक. तब नहीं हो पाता है. द मोर यू थिंक अबाउट द क्वेश्चंस, द मोर यू डीकंस्ट्रक्ट द टॉपिक, द मोर यू आर थिंकिंग अबाउट एग्जाम्पल्स, ऑटोमेटिकली 1000 and 1200 वर्ड्स वुड नॉट बी अ चैलेंज. ठीक है? Now, need of the hour is to develop emotional intelligence. By enough ethics you have studied, right? तो ethics को use करो यहाँ पे. Emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman's building blocks of emotional intelligence, talk about self-awareness, talk about motivation, talk about regulation. self-regulation, talk about empathy, talk about social skills. So write that the need of the hour is to develop emotional intelligence. If you don't want to get into Daniel Goleman's perspective, talk about Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has talked about an emotionally intelligent person, sthit prajna. Emotionally intelligent person is one who remains unperturbed in the face of calamity, who's neither happy on success nor sad on failure. He is more focused on the action rather than the fruits of the action, and how that can be ensured, how emotional intelligence can be achieved through nishkam karma, through yoga, through meditation. Make sure that you're writing all of that. Talk about Buddha's eightfold path. Talk about the development of compassion, equanimity, bhavna, that is training of mind. Having the pure, developed, enriched mind, according to Buddha, is the biggest treasure of an individual, of an human. लिखो ये सब. This is the prescription. या philosophical essay में ज्ञान बांटना है. सब संत महात्मा बन जाओ, ज्ञान बांटो. Write in prescription that what should be done so that you achieve that status of self-awareness. You stop judging others. You become inward looking. Is that very clear? There is a दोहा also, बुरा जो देखन मैं चला, बुरा ना मिल्या कोई, जो खोजा आपना मन, तो मुझसे बुरा ना कोई. I hope I have said it correctly. Talk about that. That can be your ultimate conclusion. Is that very clear? So before looking at faults of others, try to rectify yourself. Become inward looking. That is the path of self-awareness. Stop being judgmental about others. Be more emotionally intelligent. How would I achieve that emotional intelligence? Nishkam karma. Do practice yoga. Follow eightfold path. Is that very clear? Write all of that. Develop compassion, karuna towards others. Treat everyone equal. Create inclusive society. Focus on the concept of karma. Right? Likho wo sab. Is that very clear for everyone? Is it making sense, everyone out there? Can we proceed to the next topic? Do you have now sufficient content? Let's forget about the content. Just tell me, did you understand the approach to the topic? Do I need to revisit this topic again? Try with your, abhi aur topics padhenge, same strategy follow kariye, you will be able to understand. Is this very clear? Okay. Next topic, slightly controversial. Why controversial? Because many of us have had different approach to answer this topic. Hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. See, the interpretation of the topic was celebrating motherhood, which I told you in the beginning of the session today itself. There are many of us who have approached the topic in a very different manner, which has nothing to do with the motherhood. Pratik, can I have the doubts in the end? Can we have the doubts in the end? I still have 3 topics to discuss. It will take time, right? So we can have the doubts in the end of the lecture. ठीक है? तो जिसको नहीं देखना होगा, they can stop watching the session. But let me just continue with this. ठीक है? So what was the topic? So hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. So the point here is there are many of us who have taken altogether a different approach. Let's not worry about the approach. Let's wait for the result. We'll see what happens. But see, I'll put a disclaimer that if a topic is given, right, and it is given in certain context, you can definitely broaden the ambit, but you can't change the context. This is what I believe, right? Suppose it is celebrating motherhood. Okay? So in order to broaden the ambit, you can say that hand that rocks the cradle not necessarily in today's time has to be that of a woman. It can be that of a father also. There in contemporary society, the concept of single father is emerging, right? And there have been famous personalities who have attributed their success, the credit of their success to their fathers. So not always the hand that rocks the cradle, पालना जो झुलाते हैं, जरूरी नहीं है वो माँ के हों. So it's high time we should stop gender stereotyping the role of socialization of the child in the formative years. You can take that approach. ठीक है? You could have also taken the approach slightly, थोड़ा widen करने के लिए, that there are a lot of people who have done so well in their life but have been orphaned. They have been abandoned, surrendered kids. So there have been kids who didn't have the family See, family is the most important agency of socialization of a child. Within family, the role of parents is very important. Among parents, it is the celebration of the motherhood, which the topic talks about. So you can go beyond motherhood, you can choose father's role, you can also go beyond family, you can talk about the role of school, role of peer group, role of media, religion, leadership in shaping the value system of an individual. However, this is one aspect, okay, but largely it is hovering around motherhood. Once you have addressed that motherhood context of the topic, you could have widened the ambit of the topic in any which direction. But if it is going beyond the topic of socialization, तब तो आपने उस topic को context से ही अलग कर दिया. This is what I am perceiving. If it is to do something with socialization, if it is to do with agencies of socialization, if it is to do that how your value system that you get during the childhood shapes your personality in the adult phase, even then you are still close to the topic. But if it goes beyond this and you've interpreted it in some other way, then I am slightly doubtful. Okay? But anyway, UPSC knows their interpretation. They know it the best. We can just suggest our approach to it, right? So this is what I am perceiving. I can be wrong also. There's no guarantee that whatever I'm saying is absolutely correct, but this is what largely I have seen in previous year's paper also, that you can broaden the ambit, you can add new dimensions to it, but the basic context in which the topic is being given, वो आप change नहीं कर सकते हो. ऐसा थोड़ी ना है कि मदरहुड की बात कर रहे हो और आप कुछ और ही बात करके आ गए. चलो मदरहुड भी छोड़ो, सोशलाइजेशन इज द टॉपिक. सो सोशलाइजेशन तो होना चाहिए ना मुद्दा, फिर आप उसे मदर से, फादर से, सोसाइटी से, किसी से भी लिंक करो, लेकिन सोशलाइजेशन पे तो रहो एटलीस्ट. इज दैट क्लियर? सो कीपिंग दैट इन माइंड, लेट्स लुक एट द टॉपिक. Read the anecdote. I have tried to establish a paradox. Let's discuss two stories about two mothers. The first story, known as the leader of notorious cult who murdered Sharon Tate and many others in 1969, Charles Manson. He had a tumultuous relationship with his own mother. His mother was 16-year-old when he was born. The mother was an alcoholic. She wanted little to do with her son. In fact, she tried to get rid of her son repeatedly and once sold him for a pitcher of beer to a woman looking to adopt a child. That's one situation. On the other hand, we have the wife of President John Adams, Abigail Adams. She was the second first lady of United States. Because her husband was often away from home for work, she single-handedly ran their farm, wrote letters supporting equal rights for women and the abolition of slavery, educated their 5 kids who survived into childhood, including the future president, John Quincy Adams. Quincy Adams once wrote, "My mother was an angel upon earth. She was a minister of blessing to all human beings within her sphere of action. Her heart was the abode of heavenly purity. She was a personification of female virtue, of piety, of charity, of ever active and never intermitting benevolence." Obviously, you don't have to write the exact story. It depends whether you know the story or not. You could have chosen any other 2 examples. But if you look at my intent, I wanted to establish the paradox. On one hand, how it was the mother's value system which resulted into a negative impact on the child, whereas on the other hand, it was the mother who has shaped the ruler of the future time. Is that very clear? Okay? The person, the president. Is that very clear? How she was the personification of virtue, of piety, of charity, of benevolence, right? So this shows now, once the anecdote, the paradox has been established, the link with the theme of the essay. This shows how powerful force motherhood is. It make or break a life. That's the power of motherhood. You could have chosen to write or to begin the essay with different quotes. All that I am or hope to be, I owe it all to my mother, Abraham Lincoln. The influence of a mother in the life of her children is beyond calculation. James E. Faust. No language can express the power and beauty and heroism of mother's love. The art of mothering is to teach the art of living to child. Is that very clear? Now, not just this essay, try to collect this fodder. This will help you in your future essay writing. Is that clear? That is why I have prepared it like this, so that it can help you. Next story is my personal favorite, so I want to read it out for you. This can also be the anecdote to start the essay. Just read it. It's a very interesting story. It was 1965, Prabha, at this time still single and a young woman in her 20s, had to fight to convince the newspaper editors that women journalists were good for more than reporting on the local flower show in the town. When war broke out between India and Pakistan, she was audacious enough to demand that she should be assigned to cover the conflict. The response, not surprisingly, was a categorical no. However, not used to taking no for an answer, especially when it comes down to her work, she rather smartly asked for some days off instead, supposedly saying that she wants to visit her parents in Punjab. Obviously, the vacation was sanctioned. She made her way all by herself to Khemkaran and started sending back the dispatches from the front, the war front, that Hindustan Times found too good to not publish. Did you understand? 1965. 34 years later, another young girl was dubbed the country's first woman war correspondent for her frontline reporting of the Kargil conflict between India and Pakistan. However, that distinction was not hers, but her mother's. Yes, it is none other than mother-daughter duo Prabha and Barkha Dutt. As a child, she would listen goggle-eyed to the stories of how her mother made it to the war front. So in fact, Barkha Dutt was not the first woman war correspondent. It was her mother during 1965 India-Pakistan war, Prabha Dutt. However, it is like mother, like daughter. It shows, so here the anecdote ends and the last linkage line, it shows how mother plays a significant role in shaping the personality, aspiration, value system of the child. Is this very clear? Now let us suppose that you neither have that paradox, you neither have the anecdote, you neither have the quotation. However, you knew from where this quote has been put or has been picked. So you could have started the essay with the premise. The hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. This is not only an aesthetically pleasing quote, but rather a full-blown poem written by William Ross Wallace called What Rules the World. This proverb does not mean that mother literally rules the world. It does imply that she plays a very powerful role in the life of her child. Is that clear? In fact, according to William Wallace, he says, angels shower their blessing on these hands, the hands that hold a child gently from when we take our first breath. They guide us when we take our first steps. They wipe away our tears unfailingly. They feed us small morsels cheerfully. It's the mother who sees our first smile and dreams of keeping it there on our face forever. It's the mother who creates all-powerful permanent impression on the child's mind and gives the first moral training. ये इस पोयम का सार था जहां से ये टॉपिक उठाया. अब आप इसके एम्बिट को ब्रॉडन कर सकते थे when you could have written that not necessarily the angel, she is showering her blessings on these hands, but these hands not necessarily have to be that of a mother. It can be of that of a father. आप इस तरह से, तभी तो पैटर्निटी लीव का कॉन्सेप्ट आ रहा है ना भाई, कि वाई जेंडर स्टीरियोटाइप्ड द रोल ऑफ चाइल्ड रेयरिंग एंड केयरिंग. इट शुड बी जेंडर न्यूट्रल. द रोल ऑफ फादर in socialization of child should not be overlooked. ऐसे आपको अगर एम्बिट को ब्रॉडन करना है, you could have done it. लेकिन बेसिक एसेंस से you should not deviate. That is in my opinion. Rest let's wait for UPSC. वैसे भी कौन सा हमें पता चल जाएगा कि कितने नंबर किस ऐसे में मिले और कौन सा यूपीएससी हमको आइडिया दे देगा, लेकिन ठीक है, फिर भी एक ब्रॉड आइडिया लग जाएगा कि मार्क्स मिले या नहीं मिले, एटलीस्ट इतना आइडिया लग जाएगा। नाउ इन दिस एसे वी विल एक्सप्लोर फॉलोइंग एस्पेक्ट्स, वही घूम फिर के यार हर ऐसे का ना, आई टेल यू समथिंग, there are different essays, we are doing the analysis in every which essay I am just trying to tell you as a, see, do you understand, no matter we are mentors, we are teachers, but we also have a limitation ना। अब यूपीएससी कुछ भी टॉपिक उठा के दे देगा, ठीक है, मैं क्यों ये बात बोल रही हूँ, why am I even saying this is, if I as a third person can approach these essays from the same strategy and more or less if you can look at the essays ठीक ही लग रहे हैं, मतलब I should not say this, लेकिन हाँ ठीक है, मतलब मैनेजेबल लग रहे हैं, ठीक है, मैनेजेबल लग रहे हैं ना आपको, कि समझ आ रहा है दैट व्हाट इज द पर्पस ऑफ द एसे, व्हाट शुड बी रिटन, इतना मैनेजेबल लग रहा है ना। तो अगर सेम स्ट्रैटेजी फॉलो करके ये 4 डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ एसेज लिखे जा सकते थे, सो इन फ्यूचर ऑल्सो वी कैन अटेम्प्ट। इज दैट क्लियर? ऑल यू नीड टू डू इज प्रैक्टिस। बस देखो, in this essay we will explore the following thing. I have told you different types of introduction. Now this is the third part of the introduction, what the quote signifies. Example of great personalities, how the socialization by their mother have shaped the great leaders. What, why and how with respect to the role mother plays in the socialization of the child. New dimension to it that I have added based on the role of father. And finally the prescription based on the wisdom. Is that very clear? ठीक है. Now how you are exploring the topic, did you notice the kind of questions that have been framed here is very different? Obviously I have not written what do you mean by hand, what do you mean by rock, what do you mean by cradle, वो सब नहीं लिखा है मैंने, बट जब मैं आपको परसेप्शन वाला क्वेश्चन बता रही थी वहां पे मैंने लिखा था what do you mean by perception, what are different factors which impacts perception. So the kind of questions that you frame also depends upon the topic that has been asked. ठीक है, so while answering this question I did not find it important to write that what do you mean by rock, what do you mean by cradle, what do you mean by hand, वो हमने नहीं लिया, ठीक है, वो हमने literal sense में ही लिया है. Did you get the point? Is this clear? So what does quote implies? The quote simply praises motherhood as a preeminent force for change in the world. It refers to the divine yet the laborious experience of motherhood while praising mothers. It says, from the day a mother picks her child up, she fills its mind with happy thoughts, nurtures it with positivity, shapes its future carefully. A mother has the greatest impact on the upbringing of the child. It directly shapes the character, attitude and personality of the child. The influence which mother has during the formative years of the child has a vital role in shaping their behavior, development, emotional growth. It determines whether or not the child will turn into a good, hardworking achiever or a lazy, careless loafer. Depends upon the way the mother is molding the child and its conduct and habits. Is that very clear? What kind of mothering is being provided, that is going to shape the future destiny of the nation. It is, see, the destiny of the world or the nation is shaped by the people, the generation, the kids of today is going to shape the destiny in future. However, the destiny of those kids is in the hands of that agencies of socialization. And within those agencies of socialization, the most important agency is the mother, because mother is the first teacher and family is the first school. Is that very clear? और कोई इसमें रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है, एथिक्स में एक पूरा टॉपिक है, एक पूरा चैप्टर है, रोल ऑफ सोशलाइजेशन, वहीं से सब पढ़ा रही हूं मैं. Is that very clear? क्योंकि एथिक्स में भी वही पढ़ाती हूँ, रोल ऑफ सोशलाइजेशन. द सेम टॉपिक हैज बीन आस्क्ड, सो दैट इज व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू एम्फसाइज अपॉन, कि अगर एथिक्स भी ढंग से पढ़ा है तो भी हो जाएंगे ये टॉपिक्स. इज दिस वेरी क्लियर? In general, a mother is a teacher, mentor, guide, friend, companion of her child. The influence of mother's teaching during his childhood remains with a person even when he grows up to adulthood. Children usually grow up under the influence and care of their mothers. The teaching of the mother shapes the character. Her child chooses the virtuous path only because of the teaching of the mother. Kate Douglas, a notable American author and educator, once said, "Give me the first 6 years of a child's life. I don't care who has the rest." The impression which is made on the child in the early year are not easily forgotten and is very important in fixing of his character. Tabhi to your national education policy is focusing on the early childhood care and education. ठीक है, क्योंकि जो प्राइमरी स्कूलिंग है that starts from the age of 6, but they are talking about the importance of the first 6 years. वहां से भी लिंक कर सकते हो अगर broaden करना है ambit that socialization में agency of schooling is also important. You could have taken it to that ambit also. Is that very clear? That's what I'm trying to say. There is no hard and fast rule कि essay ही लिखना है. This is my approach to the essay. There is always scope for a better approach because there are better practices to best practices. That would be the next essay. So just see, all great rulers, I have explained, I have interpreted, that was my interpretation. That is what I'm saying. You could have a different interpretation. So once I have interpreted, based on my interpretation, I have explained. Based on my explanation, now I'm providing you the examples to justify. So all great rulers were once helpless children. If not for their mothers caring, they would not have achieved greater heights. History abounds with examples of famous people who made great contribution to build up human society to what it is today. Their biographical accounts reveal that their mothers were mainly responsible for chartering their life towards the ambition of their preference. A well-known English novelist, Sir Walter Scott, was influenced by his mother, who was immensely interested in poetry and literature. Now that's one example. You could have taken example of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. You could have taken example of Abraham Lincoln. You could have taken example of Mahatma Gandhi. See, we have Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, who became a great patriot and a warrior owing to the good teachings, inspiration and encouragement of his mother, Rajmata Jijabai, one of the most inspirational figures in Indian history. Her life is a perfect example of how women carries the potential of shaping future generation. She was the main advisor of Shivaji Maharaj as he went about decimating his enemies. A woman of immense valor, she was the guiding force behind Shivaji's revolt against Mughals and establishment of Maratha Empire. Jijabai taught Shivaji the importance of strategy, values, dharma by telling him stories from the great epics and folklore. She taught him the art of politics and prepared him to be just and honest ruler. She even supervised his weapon training sessions. So a mother can raise a great leader to rule the world from the very day she starts to cradle him. Now you must be wondering कि ma'am इतना elaborated example उसका reason था. If you could not have thought about that Barkha Dutt example or the paradox, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj example could have been your anecdote to write the answer. क्योंकि सबने history तो पढ़ी है, भाई इतना तो पता है. You have studied about the role of his mother in shaping his personality. And then after writing this, you could have added the statement, so a mother can raise a great leader to rule the world from the very day she starts to cradle him. So this becomes, I am giving you elaborative content because that example can be used somewhere else in your anecdote or something like that. इसलिए मैं आपको इतना broad examples दे रही हूँ, आप एक एक दो दो लाइनों में भी लिख सकते हो. Next, you could have started with this quote. All that I am or hope to be, I owe to my angel mother. These are the famous words by Abraham Lincoln about his mother, who died when he was just 9 years old. Though he knew her for such a short time, it is said that he remembered her for her warm affection. In that short time, she fused a solid foundation for how President Lincoln would treat both sides of the brutal Civil War with fairness, without judgment, and in a way that ultimately bridged the gap between the two sides. President Lincoln often spoke of his mother's traits: ambition, mental alertness, power of analysis. In fact, those powerful elements form many of the traits he would be known for as well. So, hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Did you get the point? I have numerous examples. आपको जो अच्छे लगे आप उठा लेना. In the formative years of Mahatma Gandhi, he was influenced by his mother Putli Bai, who imparted in him strong sense of personal ethics and compassion. Gandhiji once said, "The outstanding impression my mother has left on my memory is that of saintliness." She was deeply religious. In fact, it is said that Mahatma Gandhi's bent of mind seems to have, the spiritual bent of mind seems to have come from his mother. Gandhiji's devotion to women began with his devotion to his mother. He learned the fundamental aspect of his soul politics from his mother. So that is, hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. You have more examples. Martin Luther King Jr., his mother Alberta King. She played the organ, she founded the choir at the Baptist church, she was also involved with various women groups. She has raised her 3 children with a healthy sense of self-respect, and she told them that the segregation that the children are seeing every day is a social condition rather than a natural order. She asked them not to give up to the social discrimination which they are facing, because it is not natural, it is a social construct. In fact, once Martin Luther King Jr. in his autobiography said that his mother made it clear that she opposes this system and he should never allow it to make him feel inferior. However, at that time, mother had no idea that this little boy in her arms would years later be involved in a struggle against the system she was speaking of. Is this very clear? So it is the value system. It is how rational your mother is, how confident, how independent, how empowered your women is. It is going to shape the destiny of the nation. ले जाओ इसको patriarchy पर. Is that very clear? ठीक है. Next, Elon Musk का example. Elon Musk also, the mother has played a very significant role. In fact, Elon has given the credit to his mother for her work ethic. In fact, he believes that his mother was the driving force behind his success. In fact, there was a small story about it, that before Elon Musk has founded successful companies like Tesla and SpaceX, he and his brother had found a company called Zip2. However, that was not initially a success. So his mother invested $10,000 from her savings to keep the company afloat. In fact, later she said that was the best investment ever she made. So she never doubted the capability of her children. She never shied away from encouraging them. She had shown that bold and confident behavior, which later was shown in her kids. So in fact, she said, "I don't stop my kids from doing anything they think is right. As long as you are doing something that is good for the future, then I think you should remain positive and do it no matter what are the crises that you are facing." Is that clear? You can pick up any example. इस वक्त मैं आपको इतने examples दे रही हूं कि अगर ये ऐसे नहीं भी पूछें, कोई और random topic आ जाए, आप ये सारे anecdotes उठा के you can write a good introduction. Is that clear? And on the similar lines, you can look for more examples. Treat it as a fodder for philosophical essays. Then obviously Eve Branson, mother of Richard Branson. Again, she herself was a very adventurous person. In fact, it was believed that once she disguised herself as a man to become a gliding pilot. So then Richard said she did quite a lot of adventurous things herself. So I think she had a kind of expectation from her sons also. So I had a lot to live up to. His mother for him was such a rational role model that he believed that if he has to achieve something in the eyes of his mother, he has to do extraordinary things in his life, and that is what made him successful. Is that very clear? However, you have a contrary situation also. On the other hand, most noted criminals such as mass murderers, serial killers, they have had miserable childhoods, as any psychologist who's experienced in this matter will say. Examples include Ted Bundy, Richard Ramirez, etc. They were the one who had a very tumultuous childhood. They did not get proper socialization in their early childhood days, and that has shaped their future personality, their value system in their adulthood. So you can give a paradoxical example as well. Now comes the theoretical portion. Through examples, we have explained that mother plays a very significant role in the socialization of the child. Now, how she does that? So there is basically, it is based on the attachment that the mother has with the child. It's a psychological touch to this explanation, that a mother and child attachment is largely responsible for the kind of socialization a child would be getting. There are two kinds of attachment, a secure attachment, insecure attachment. Largely, we should strive for creating secure attachment between mother and child. Now, what is secure attachment? These are the characteristic feature of a secure attachment. If there is a warm relationship between a mother and child, if the mothering is consistent, right? If a mother is acting as a rational role model for the child, if the mother-child relationship is characterized by trust and mutual respect, automatically the attachment is secure. And once that attachment is secure, the values which will be reflected in the child would be that of empathy, tolerance, patience, bold and confident behavior, high level of self-efficacy. Self-efficacy matlab believing in your ability to face any challenges. Is that very clear? However, on the contrary, if the attachment, मैं कुछ पढ़ा नहीं रही हूँ, मैं बता रही हूँ कि आप theoretical perspective भी दे सकते हो इस टॉपिक को आंसर करने में. रीजन भी ये सब आप पूछोगे मैम ये कहाँ है, एथिक्स में है, रोल ऑफ सोशलाइजेशन. सो फैमिली में पेरेंटिंग, विद इन पेरेंटिंग रोल ऑफ मदर, ये सब पढ़ते हैं वहां पर. इनसिक्योर अटैचमेंट, व्हेन मदर इज इम्परवियस टू द नीड ऑफ द चाइल्ड, फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता क्या हो रहा है. जैसे आज द पेरेंटिंग हैज बिकम सो परमिसिव, इनडिफरेंट पेरेंटिंग. The mothers are more interested, or no, why only mothers? The parents, let me not stereotype it. In general, parents, they are indifferent. They believe children to be a liability rather than a responsibility. So that everybody is busy in their own vested life. So when mothers are impervious to the need of the child, when they place unreasonable demands on the child, with all due respect, mothers नहीं कभी कभी इमोशनल होके बोल देती हैं that I have kept you in my womb for 9 months and this is how you are paying me back. So emotional blackmailing which starts. So yeah, placing unreasonable demands on the child. When mother-child relationship is characterized by neglect, इंडिफरेंस और एक्सेसिव इंडल्जेंस, कि मतलब करियर भी मेरी मर्जी का चूज करो, पार्टनर भी मेरी मर्जी से चूज करो, व्हाट आर यू ईटिंग, वेयरिंग, एवरीथिंग हैज टू बी अकॉर्डिंग टू माय ओन चॉइस. सो दैट इज एक्सेसिव इंडल्जेंस. ठीक है. हेंस द वैल्यूज डेवलप्ड आर एब्सेंस ऑफ ट्रस्ट, lack of bold confident behavior, high dependency orientation, low achievement orientation. So obviously you are not shaping the right kind of destiny of the nation. You can add a new dimension to the essay. Although the quote celebrates motherhood and her role in transforming the child into an achiever, the role of father cannot be overlooked. The role of father is equally significant in value development of the child. In fact, it is through identification with the father that boys acquire gender appropriate values and behavior, and girls learn to make heterosexual adjustment. So you cannot overlook the role father plays in the socialization of the child. In fact, in the contemporary world, it is not necessary that the hand that rocks the cradle has to be that of the woman. By William Ross ने यही बोला ना, that the angel shower the blessing on these hand which helps you to take your first breath, which feeds you the food, which wipes your tear, everything. So not necessarily that hand has to be that of a mother. It can be that of a father as well. Today, various single dads are also playing instrumental role in socialization. Famous personality like Paul McCartney has attributed his success to the philosophy of his father. Is that very clear? Now, although I have not added, but if you want, you can further broaden the ambit of this essay and you can take the concept of socialization with respect to those children who don't have a family, right? Yet they prove to be a good leader. For example, Steve Jobs. His parents died early. Later he was being adopted. However, a lot of love and care was given by the adopted parents. But yes, in his early formative years, he did not have the family. You could have taken other examples as well. ठीक है. In fact, in context of Nelson Mandela, his father when died, he was taken away by his uncle, but he ran away from the house of his uncle because he didn't want to get trapped in that concept of arranged marriage, because he had certain other plans and he continued with his education and everything. So the education also plays a very significant role. So you can take examples of these personalities as well. But whatever you are writing, make sure that you are giving examples to justify your argument. So if you are writing about other agencies of socialization, feel free to do that. But ultimately, what remains the bottom line is the socialization aspect of this essay. Okay. Now, we have established the role of mother as an agent of, most important agent of socialization. So अब क्या करें? भाई दिक्कत तो यही है ना कि हमारी सोसाइटी में विमेन इज नॉट एम्पावर्ड. अब वाई विमेन वुड नॉट बी अ रैशनल रोल मॉडल? बिकॉज शी इज नॉट इंडिपेंडेंट, शी इज नॉट एजुकेटेड, शी डजंट हैव इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस. ठीक है, शी इज नॉट रैशनल, शी इज नॉट एम्पावर्ड, she doesn't have autonomy with respect to decision making, she cannot challenge the social malpractices which are existing, she doesn't have access to various resources, she doesn't have any sense of self-worth, she doesn't have autonomy over her own body, she cannot lead the direction of social change. If you do not have women having these qualities, how do you expect that they are going to shape a good future for the nation and for the society at large? So it is very important that you make your women emotionally intelligent, you make them independent, you make them confident, you make them rational, progressive, empowered. और उसके लिए क्या करें? Various structures of patriarchy which are responsible for the secondary status of women needs to be reformed. So there are different structures of patriarchy. So start from family, और एक एक लाइन में, ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं. Family, educational content, media, religion, caste, ठीक है, everything, all these structures of patriarchy needs to be smashed. Right? You have to bring about change in the value system so that you make your women emotionally intelligent. So based on whatever we have discussed so far, I am giving you a prescription. You can have a different prescription, but make sure you have a prescription. Is that very clear for everyone? ठीक है. Then emphasizing the significant role women plays in shaping the future of the world through various platforms. You need to emphasize, stop treating your women as the second sex, stop treating them as the secondary citizen, stop. You need to realize the importance of women. एक तरफ आप women को सबसे important काम दे रहे हो, socialization of the child. You have confined your women to the domestic space. You have over-represented them in the care work, care of the child, rearing of the child, without even realizing that if you don't give the right kind of education to your women, if you don't give them right kind of empowerment, what kind of future generation are they going to create? जब उनका ही थॉट प्रोसेस इतना नैरो होगा तो क्या वैल्यू सिस्टम? खुद भी पेट्रियार्की के शिकार थे, वही पेट्रियार्की सिखा देंगे आगे. So the patriarchy will keep on perpetuating because they have not been given the opportunity to explore the larger set of value system. So it is very important. Do you realize that giving them the job of caring for the child, elders, rearing the child, socializing the child, it's the most important task at hand. And without giving them the proper skills and training to carry out that task, because you believe that is their inherent quality. बच्चा ही तो पालना है, पालना नहीं है, वैल्यू सिस्टम डेवलप करना है. और वैल्यूज रातों रात डेवलप नहीं होती. वंस द वैल्यूज आर शेप्ड, इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू चेंज दोज वैल्यूज. सो राइट काइंड ऑफ मदरिंग इज रिक्वायर्ड. ठीक है. सो सिनेमा, स्ट्रीट थिएटर, नुक्कड़ नाटक जिसे कहते हैं, एजुकेशनल बुक्स, टेलीविजन, सेट राइट काइंड ऑफ एग्जाम्पल्स. भाई आधी जनता तो देखती है ना टेलीविजन, आधी से ज्यादा. तो राइट काइंड ऑफ सीरियल. स्टॉप ग्लोरीफाइंग दैट अबला नारी वाला जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, जो वो सीता सिंड्रोम देखने को मिलता है, दैट नो मैटर हाउ करेक्ट शी इज ऑलवेज गिविंग द अग्नि परीक्षा. दैट काइंड ऑफ सिंबॉलिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ विमेन नीड्स टू डन अवे विथ. कमोडिफिकेशन, ऑब्जेक्टिफिकेशन ऑफ विमेन नीड्स टू बी डन अवे विथ. सो मेक यूज ऑफ दीज प्लेटफॉर्म्स टू क्रिएट एन इक्वल स्पेस एंड अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर विमेन इन डिफरेंट वॉक्स ऑफ लाइफ. Simple. Educate, employ, empower women. Concept of paternity leave needs to be further encouraged to challenge the gender stereotyping of child care roles. Is this very clear for everyone? Overall, ultimate conclusion, ultimate. Since the future lies in the hands of the kids of today. The future of the kids are today in the hands of their mother. In that sense, she is indeed the defining factor which can bring a greater change to the society as a whole. Even an illiterate woman with a rich vision and high level of emotional quotient influence their child in a number of good ways. At the same time, the need of the hour is to have educated mothers who through training could remove the oddities of their children. Mothers who highlight the importance of honest living to their children do a great service to a society. Hence, if you aim at building a stable society in India, we must insist for the constructive role of mothers. If you want to educate an individual, educate a man. If you want to educate a generation, educate a woman. And with that, you can conclude your essay. Is that very clear for everyone? Is it making sense? Can we move to the next topic? Again, I'm putting a disclaimer. Feel free to further broaden the ambit. This was just the broad guideline. Next topic that we have is there are better practices to the best practices. It's a small topic. Why small topic? क्योंकि इसमें कुछ ज़्यादा explore करने को नहीं होगा. Mostly it has to be written with respect to the examples. फिर भी इतना तो हम लिख ही लेंगे कि 1000 words हो जाए. ठीक है? The strategy remains the same. You can start with an anecdote. Before we start with the anecdote, do you understand this? What is your interpretation? Take 2 minutes. There are better practices to best practice. If I say this is the best essay that is being written, that means the scope for further improvement has now been done away with. When you say something is best, that means that's the end. That is the benchmark, the ultimate benchmark which has been established. And now you have to perform with respect to that practice. You are not focusing on going beyond that practice. You have stifled your capacity of innovation and creativity because you believe that this is the best practice. When you say, what is the best strategy, ma'am, to clear prelims? Even the topper can't tell you what is the best strategy because maybe that is best for them. Maybe that is not for you. Maybe there is a better practice than their best practice which can enable you to clear this exam. So next time, if you're looking for that model essay, if you're looking for that model answer, if you're looking for that model strategy, please don't do that because there is always a better practice to the defined best practice. Is that clear? Why do you call some practice to be best? Because it has given results. It has been successful in the past, but there is no guarantee that it will be successful in the future. There is no guarantee that there is no other efficient practice better than that best of yours. Is that very clear? So keeping that in mind, we will start with the discussion. So mobile phones were invented as early as 1940s when engineers working at American Telecommunication and Telegraph developed cells for mobile phones base stations. Mobile telephony has a long history that started off with the experiments of communication from and to moving vehicles rather than handheld devices. Today we have swanky touchscreen phones. There wouldn't have been so much development if researchers would have stopped thinking that wireless phone in 1940s was the best practice. Instead, with each year, something better was introduced. Is that very clear? So if you start conceiving a practice to be best practice, you stop growing. Your progress stops there. Your innovation, your capability to be more creative ends there. So one should not treat any practice as a best practice. In fact, it is believed by many that those who treat certain practices the best practice are the ones who refrain themselves from reinventing the wheel. You don't want to discover things further. You don't want to reinvent the things further. You don't want to make efforts. You want to categorize yourself and to work only in that direction which has already been set by your previous leaders. Is that very clear? So that ends the progress. The evolution of the society will stop if you will start treating the practices to be best, because there is always a better practice to your best practice. That's what should be the perspective. So if you cannot think of the anecdote, there can be different quotations. The journey is never ending. There is always going to be growth and improvement. In fact, I like the second one the best. The biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. That's my personal favorite. Everything is perfect and there is always room for improvement. Is that very clear? Once you've written this, then you can start that what the examiner can expect. So first of all, यहाँ पर मैंने फिर वही approach follow करी. What do you mean by best practices? How do you declare a practice to be best practice, or why do you declare a practice to be best practice? What do you mean by better practice? What is the debate between better and best, and what is the need of the hour? Examples from different domain to justify the argument, and the prescription finally to develop that requisite perspective where you always are in the process of looking for a better to your best. Is that very clear? Now, what are the, ये बहुत simple है, अपनी understanding से लिख सकते हो. A best practice is a method which has consistently shown results superior to those which are achieved by any other means. So ultimately that practice is used as a benchmark. So some cases में it is fine to have best practices. For example, जो standard jobs होती हैं. Suppose cooking a meal. So before that, what is the best practice? That is to wash your hands, right? For every different variety of meal that you are cooking, there are different set of best practices in order to cook a good meal. So that's one approach to do that. But that's one way of doing it. Is that very clear? ठीक है. तो कभी कभी काम आ जाता है, जैसे कि खाना बनाने से पहले washing your hands. ठीक है, or in the COVID time, sanitizing your hands, wearing the mask, that can be the best practice. ठीक है, that's one way of saying it. ठीक, standard procedures के लिए. ठीक. However, best practice is often used as a standard. Once we govern that standard with a policy and a procedure, we are imposing a limit on our ability to be innovative and creative. ये इतनी देर से मैं समझा रही हूँ. We also tend to set procedures as to what it takes to change procedures. So there is often an added barrier to even consider an improvement. We always have that inertia to introduce change. That is the problem. ठीक है. We are more comfortable in status quoism. So whatever benchmark once is set, we try to govern that standard with a policy and procedure, and we try to standardize it further. Is that very clear? However, the idea here is quite simple, that if you are aiming to simply align with the best practice, that means you are stifling the innovation and the room for improvement. Is this very clear? In fact, many believe that there is no such thing as best practice. So how do you determine a practice to be a best practice? The reality is that it is nothing more than disparate groups of methodology, process, rules, concept, theories, which has attained a level of success in certain areas. And because of those success, it is considered as a universal truth. And it is believed that it can be applied anywhere and everywhere. This is what I was trying to highlight, that if it has been successful for A, if just because A has attained a success with a certain initiative, it doesn't mean that B can plug and play the same process and can expect the same outcome. If a strategy has been successful for A, does not mean that is the best strategy and will be successful for B as well. There is always a room for new thinking and innovation. In fact, that is how you should be thinking, that there is always a room for innovation and new thinking. Is that very clear? In fact, this is what I was trying to say, one of the most common reason for pursuing best practices in a given area is to avoid having to reinvent the wheel. Think about it like this. If nobody have ever reinvented the wheel, they would still be made from stone. One of the most difficult areas for different executives to wrap their mind around is how to unlearn the legacy-based thinking. Maintenance doesn't lead you forward, creativity does. You need to be creative. You need to create new things. Is that very clear? Is it making sense? That what is best practice? how you determine a practice to be a best practice, because it has been successful over a period of time. So it is a disparate collection of methodology or the process or the ideas or the models which have been working well in the past, and it is believed, since they have been successful in the past, it is believed to be a universal truth and believed that it will always be successful wherever applied, anywhere it is applied. However, that is not the gospel truth. Is that very clear? So maintenance does not lead you forward, creation does. Is this clear for everyone? Now the comparison between the two. Best practice means you are average. Better practice means you are meaningfully different and you are standing out from the crowd. For example, marketing manager who follows the best practice is actually doing her brand a disservice. Best practice means you are following the category and the leader. Better practices means you are creating a new path and a different approach to success. Is that clear? Is it clear? For example, if your competition focuses on high prices for coffee, maybe your better practice is to give away the coffee free and charge for something else, like spending time in your shop. That is nothing but Zifferblatt. Zifferblatt is an anti-cafe concept where they don't charge you for the coffee and the food that they provide, but they charge you for every minute that you spend in their place. Is that very clear? So for some coffee houses, when the best practice was to optimize on the taste of the coffee or on the pricing of the coffee, the better practice they came up was not charging the coffee at all, but charging the time that they are spending, charging the ambience that they are enjoying. Is that very clear? Okay. So you should always be innovative. The idea that something is best implies that it cannot be topped. It suggests that you have searched exhaustively. It assumes that the application of principle in one setting will work just as well in the other. The notion of best practices is on the right track, but if you really want to affect change, you will have to adjust your target to better practices. It's not just the semantic, मतलब सिर्फ word का फेर नहीं है. It is a complete reframing of the goal. It's not just saying कि यार best मत बोलो, better बोलो. So it is not just playing with the words. It is totally reframing the goal of your life, that you are not focused towards the best practice, you are looking for something better than that. You are hopefully on the path of innovation, discoveries, inventions, creativity. Okay. Examples. Now, this will make your job more clear. I have picked up examples from different domains: political domain, economic domain, social domain, technological domain. Feel free and you will understand what is the objective of this essay. In fact, this is a very simple topic. If you understood, if the interpretation was correct, trust me, it was the easiest topic. यहाँ पे आप अपनी सारी knowledge लगा सकते थे. In fact, you could have written a better essay here because your examples would have been better. वो technology में जितना भी change हो रहा है, ठीक है, you could have used that. Whatever innovation, inventions which have happened over the past, that could have been written here. So political domain, how political system which were thought to be best for that time eventually gave way for better systems. Example, monarchy at one time was a prevalent system. Divine rule of the king theory was propagated. Eventually, with time, better system which was participative democracy. Similarly, rights in democracy were previously denied to women. Women's suffrage came a lot later after a movement. Denial of such rights was seen as a best practice at one point of time due to conservative rationale. However, it was replaced with a better practice, that is providing women the right to vote. Is that very clear? Similarly, best practice at time even today is considered as the parliamentary democracy, whereas there is another better practice which is emerging. For example, in context of Sweden and Finland, they pass their bills through two committees. One looks at the technical aspect of the law, second looks at the constitutional validity. However, there was an article in Indian Express which says that India doesn't look at any aspect. So it was said on a lighter tone, but the reality. But anyhow, did you understand that in context of Sweden and Finland, the bills are passed through two committees? It is even better practice than the participative or the parliamentary democracy. Is that very clear? The second, the economic aspect. एक time था when economic model of development was growth based. It was considered to be the best. However, later it got replaced by a better, that is sustainable development. Maybe in future you would get another model of development. Similarly, at one time the best practice for welfare spending was taxation. How it was replaced by a better practice, that is corporate social responsibility. एक time था economic system was based on the barter system, which later on moved to the money as a legal tender. Now is moving towards digital currency. Similarly, technological domain. Social media was seen as the greatest development of our times. With everything at our fingertips, social media was seen as the thing. But today there is a buzzword around metaverse. It is going to be the next big thing, bigger than social media. Is that very clear? Similarly, internet started with a slow dial-up connection, although this was seen as the groundbreaking invention of that time. But researchers didn't stop there. The result was different generations of technology, 1G, say 3G, say 4G, say 5G, say 6G. Is that clear? Journey of TV technology from cathode ray tube to LED. That is nothing but there is always a better practice to your best practice. Similarly, in context of social domain, एक time था when within caste system the best practice to attain mobility was Sanskritization. Now it has been replaced by the better practice, that is affirmative action. Similarly, the best practice for the socialization of child was considered to be the role of the mother. It was housewife centric, where mother was confined to the domestic space. She was believed to perform the expressive role of taking care of the child, of socializing the child. But now we are moving towards better practice, that is the role of father in the socialization. Similarly, with respect to education, now our best practices, there is emergence of better practice. For example, the concept of flipped classroom technique. For example, of open roof schooling. There is a very famous saying of John Dewey who says that if we teach students today as we have taught them yesterday, we rob them of tomorrow. So there is no best practice. There is always a better practice. Is that clear? Similarly, एक time था best practice policing for people. Today, a better practice, community policing. There is a concept of Myra Paibi of Manipur. It is, the literal meaning is women torch bearer. They are basically patrolling at night. They are basically acting as the guardians of the civil society. They are fighting against the problem of alcoholism, drug abuse, sexual violence, etc. So instead of policing for people, the people themselves are indulging in the act of policing, that is community policing. Is that clear? Similarly, best practice midday meal to a better practice Tithi Bhojan. Tithi Bhojan is involvement of the members of community in the effort to provide nutritious and healthy food to the children. So there is always a better practice. हमें लगा था midday meal is the best practice. It will resolve the problem of nutritional deficit. It will ensure universalization of education, but then there is a better concept to midday meal, that is involvement of the community member in the form of Tithi Bhojan. Is that clear for everyone? Similarly, with respect to Swachh Bharat, we thought the best practice is solid waste management. However, there is a new concept which has emerged in context of Kerala, that is decentralized waste management. Is that clear? So there is always a better practice to your best practice. So what exactly are these? So now you have written immense examples. Obviously, सारे नहीं लिखने थे. Whichever examples you are comfortable with. What I'm just trying to say, look for the examples to justify your statement. Interpretation, explanation, exemplification. We are waiting for the prescription. Anyhow. Better practices means you are avoiding the way category behaves. You are not following that herd mentality. IKEA is a furniture store that doesn't sell assembled furniture. It was a radical idea when the business started. Similarly, Cirque du Soleil created a circus without animals. It didn't follow the best practices for circuses, but redefined altogether what a circus could be. Similarly, when everyone focused on the best practice of the design of a shoe, it was Christian Louboutin who focused on the sole in their red color. So it is the better practice means you are avoiding the way category behaves. Okay. So winners don't do different things, they do things differently. Is that clear? I think Shiv Khera said this statement. So winners don't do different things, they do things differently. So you should always think to avoid categories and look for your own approach. We have to keep moving forward. No destination is final. We might feel that we have reached the best possible scenario, but there is always a room for improvement. How to ensure that there is always a room for improvement? That is the prescription that we are providing. Determine the strengths and weaknesses. Try to work on how strengths can be further accentuated and how weaknesses can be minimized. Adapt. Always adapt to new scenarios. One thing can be best during one time, but it needs to change and adapt given new circumstances. Open to constructive criticism. Do not close yourself. The criticism are good. It allows difference of opinion is good. The conflict is not always bad. You should look for constructive means to resolve the conflict because it always creates the scope for growth. Continue learning. Learning is a lifelong process. Improvement can come only if you are open to learning from anywhere and anyone. Is this clear? Ultimate conclusion. Room for improvement is the largest room in the world. As Nietzsche says, the snake which cannot cast its skin has to die. Similarly, the minds which are prevented from changing their opinion, they cease to be the mind. Is that clear? Is it making sense? This can be the ultimate conclusion to our penultimate conclusion. Penultimate conclusion is always the prescription. You can have a different prescription. उससे मतलब नहीं है कि क्या prescription लिखना है, बस लिखना है, ठीक है? हाँ, obviously it should be relevant. ठीक है? So with this 3 essays come to an end, we'll take up very quickly the last essay. I know I have taken a lot of your time, but yeah, it was required this time at least. So let's quickly see. The process of self-discovery has been outsourced to technology. What do you mean by self-discovery? To discover your own self, to know who you are, what makes you unique, what are your preferences, what is your interest, what are your taste, who you like to interact with, right? What kind of career you want to pursue, what kind of a person you are, what is your value system. That is self-discovery. Knowing all these things about your own self, that is self-discovery. There were certain means in the traditional, conventional means of self-discovery. Through your own experiences you discover, through trial and error, learning, making mistake, then learning, then making mistake, and then finally discovering yourself. For example, Mother Teresa, through her experience, Gautam Buddha, through his experience, he had his own journey of self-discovery, starting from starving to meditating under banyan tree. He has explored that journey by himself. Is that clear? Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi, his experience in South Africa has enabled him to discover what ultimately he is looking for, what is his ultimate goals in life, what is his objective of life, right? What motivates him. So that was yoga, meditation, fasting, religious ideologies, ठीक है, experiencing, learning, observing, living your life, ठीक है. There were different ways of self-discovery. However, the question today is that this job of self-discovery, this concept, process of self-discovery, क्योंकि ऐसा तो है नहीं आज मैंने सोचा मेरे को self-discovery हो गई. It's a process. It's a lifelong process. You keep on discovering new things about yourself, right? This process of self-discovery has been outsourced to technology. Now, what I want in life, which person I want to marry, what career I want to choose, what are my value system, what I like, what are my taste, what cold drink I like, what car I prefer, okay, what attire do I wish to wear, what food I wish to eat, what music do I wish to listen. Everything has been outsourced to technology. Now, technology helps me to discover myself. Is that very clear? That is the interpretation of the topic according to me. Now, based on the interpretation, read this anecdote. It's a normal morning for Sharma family. Mr. Sharma is sitting in front of the television for his daily news bulletin. His elder son is scrolling and telling his brother how YouTube algorithm predicts the music of his choice. Meanwhile, the daughter of Mr. Sharma is anxiously looking at her phone time and again, as a recent photo she uploaded on her Instagram profile has not received much attention. Did you get the point here? The above excerpt is not just the story of Sharma family. This is a routine day for various families around the globe. This anecdote shows three parallel forces of self-discovery. Mr. Sharma is discovering his value, preference and ideology based on TV debates of newsroom. His son is exploring his music likings by YouTube recommendations, while his daughter's image of self-discovery is hostage to likes and shares of social media. In all the three cases, it has been outsourced to technology. Is that clear? Is this anecdote making sense? Look at it again. It's every day. Everyone's life is like this. It's not a story of Sharma ji. It is our story as well. That it's a normal morning for Sharma family sitting in front of television for his daily news bulletin. His elder son scrolling, telling his brother how YouTube algorithm is actually predicting the music of his choice. Meanwhile, the daughter is anxiously looking at her phone. It is some kind of a disorder. The moment you post something, you are so dependent. You are the hostage. You are a prisoner of the likes and the shares that you are getting, because that is going to help you develop a sense of self-worth. Your worth is not determined by your own self. You have outsourced it to the number, to the statistics, to the number of likes and the shares that you are getting. So this anecdote shows three parallel forces of self-discovery. Mr. Sharma discovering his value, preference and ideology based on TV debates in the newsroom. Son exploring the music likings by YouTube recommendation, while the daughter's image is hostage to the likes and shares of social media. That was the anecdote. We have linked it to the topic. Now see, with around 4.5 billion internet users and advancing pace of scientific innovation, technology has been pervading all the aspects of our life, one of which includes self-discovery. I have taken the stand. It is suggestive of my theme of the essay. I have taken a stand that yes, the process of self-discovery has been outsourced to the technology. Is this making sense for everyone? There is another way of starting the essay. Just look at this anecdote. Think Up, daily affirmation. These are the apps, by the way. Fabulous, self-care, Strides, goal and habit tracker. What all these apps have in common? These are the apps for self-discovery, daily motivation apps. Today's motivation apps are designed to inspire you to keep moving forward with positive affirmation tips and insight. This shows how technology has overtaken the process of self-discovery. So you could have started with everyday life. Anecdote doesn't need to be something which is out of the world. It can be an experience, observation of your everyday life. Similarly, आप इतना ज़्यादा आजकल वो इतने सारे apps हैं, इतने सारे lifestyle coaches हैं, इतने सारे clubs हैं that you've been seeing, और इस पूरे COVID pandemic में किया क्या है सिवाय fiddling with the phone. So you would have ideas about these, that how technology has overtaken the process of self-discovery. एक Facebook पे नहीं आता है कि आप ये quiz solve करिए, this will tell what kind of a person you are. और हम सच सच बताना, how many of you have not tried that? Why am I asking not tried? क्योंकि the number would be very less. आपसे क्या बोलूँ? I myself have tried that. So if you say that you haven't, very surprising. That means you haven't come across such quizzes. वो random quizzes नहीं होते, pop-up होते रहते हैं that answer these questions, this will tell what kind of a personality you are, और सबकी एक more or less अच्छी personality बताते हैं और हम कितने खुश हो जाते हैं ना, हाँ मैं तो ऐसी ही हूँ, ठीक है? Did you get my point? So yeah. Now another way of starting, you can do it like this also. In Hindu religion, Gayatri month denotes the ultimate approach to self-discovery. This is another way of introducing the content. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace. This mantra denotes the process of self-discovery, which is an act rather than process of knowing oneself in lay terms. Self-discovery requires one to explore your own ideas, thoughts, values, preferences, opinion. It requires deep contemplation, analysis, open-mindedness to accept oneself just as you are. Is that very clear? Self-discovery has always been a personal act, a journey in which a person travels and guides himself. For example, Lord Buddha, his journey to nirvana started from starving himself to meditating under banyan tree. His self-discovery journey was explored by him, so it was always been a personal act. However, with increased technocratization, the conventional sources of self-discovery are declining. With nuclearization of families, with secularization, decline in religious significance, it has diluted the conventional methods of self-discovery, thereby creating a vacuum. However, this vacuum has been filled with technology, which is now aiding self-discovery. So if you have seen, I have given you 3 different ways of starting the essay. One more can be a quote, which I'll just show it to you, that it is not that we use technology, we live technology. That is one of the quotation. Dekh lo. It is not that we use technology, we live technology. So yes, there are different ways of starting the essay. However, if you have noticed, at the end of everything, we have connected it with the main theme, where I'm taking a stand that yes, the process of self-discovery has been outsourced to technology. Now, in this essay, we will explore various aspects. What do you mean by self-discovery? What are various dimensions of self-discovery? What are the traditional conventional methods of self-discovery? What is the significance? Why it is important to discover your own self? As Socrates says, an unexamined life is not worth living. The best thing that you can do for yourself is to know yourself. It's very important. That's the significance. However, if you fail to discover yourself, what can be the implication? To what extent we have outsourced it? Does it have any ramification? Yes, it does. So finally, what do you prescribe? So based on that, this is how we are going to proceed with this last essay of today's session. So what is self-discovery? बहुत simple है यार, वही knowing your own self. So your preferences, your taste, your interest, your values, ठीक है? Your purpose in life, your career choices, everything is nothing but a part of self-discovery. So it's a long journey of exploration through your inner self, trying to discover who you are, what are your potential, your purpose, what are the core principles which are guiding your life. This journey starts with self-awareness. Then it focuses on your personal interest as well as your hopes and desire. And eventually it leads us to the self-knowledge, which guides us towards the situation and experiences in which we can thrive. You will know yourself better. Self-knowledge, in fact, Aristotle says self-awareness is the beginning of all wisdom. You should be aware about your strengths, your weaknesses, your preferences. Only then you would be able to thrive in a situation. In fact, you will get into a situation only when you know you can thrive in that situation. Is that very clear? Hence, self-discovery is a way for us to explore our personality, our interest, our tendencies, our values, our beliefs, etc. It is the ultimate destination is to find who we are and what makes us unique. Is that very clear? The process of self-discovery is one in which you self-reflect, in which you are guided through self-questioning. You are questioning, you are examining your own thoughts, your words, your actions in order to arrive at a conclusion that finally who you are. हम introspect करते हैं, हम inward looking होके reflect करते हैं. We examine our thought process, we examine our actions, we examine our attitude in order to arrive at a conclusion what kind of a person we are. पर हम आज क्या कर रहे हैं? It is the technology which is telling us what kind of person we are. हम किसको वोट करना चाहते हैं, हम डेवलपमेंट चाहते हैं कि नहीं चाहते हैं, आर वी लुकिंग फॉर रिलीजियस आइडियोलॉजी, ये सब भी कोई और हमारे लिए बिल्ड कर रहा है. द नैरेटिव हैज बीन बिल्ड बाय द मीडिया हाउसेस. Is that very clear? So what we even desire is being outsourced to technology. Is that very clear? Okay. However, there are different dimensions of self-discovery. First, you discover your own self, your own character. Then you discover your interest, your purpose, your preferences, and finally your value system. So there are three dimensions or the three tenets of self-discovery. Now, what is the significance of process of self-discovery? See, self-discovery enables you to know your ability, and not only to know your ability but also to further develop them. So it gives you a sense of satisfaction, it gives you joy, it gives you happiness. It enables the development of your mental strength, your cognitive development happens. Why? Because now you are aware about your abilities. You are not trying to follow the herd mentality. Is that you know your own ability, and not only you are knowing your own ability, you are further developing those ability. So it gives you a sense of confidence. कहते हैं ना कि when you are aware about your own self, your weaknesses, your strengths, you set goals accordingly. And once you are setting your goals according to your own personality and preferences, there is chance of frequent achievement of those goals. So when you are frequently achieving those goals, it will give you a sense of self motivation. It's very motivational. जब आप अपने लिए realistic goals set करते हो and you achieve those goals, then it gives you a sense of motivation. You feel happy about it, right? So for mental well-being, and not only mental well-being, it also ensures physical well-being, because once you are self-aware, you start taking care of yourself, you start taking care of your body, you start nurturing it, because now you are in that space of mind. So not only it helps in mental well-being but also physical well-being. However, if you fail to discover yourself, then, as I said, according to Socrates, an unexamined life is not worth living. If you fail, see, it has a serious ramification. When I don't know what kind of a person I am, how would I know which kind of person I will gel around with, what kind of work I will enjoy? I will start following or practicing a profession or striving for a profession which everybody is becoming an engineer. I will also become an engineer. For a very long period of time, I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I am talking about myself, yeah, in general. In reality, I'm talking about myself, because in my school I saw that everybody said that intelligent students take PCM with economics. I also took PCM with economics. I didn't even realize that why did I take PCM, physics, chemistry, maths. I didn't know. In fact, I should have taken commerce, but then everybody said that commerce are taken, please don't take it otherwise. This is what was the thought process that time, that commerce is usually taken by those students who are not serious about studies. But Smriti, you are a very studious and a very academically oriented girl. So then everybody joined IIT coaching, and I belong to Kanpur. So you know how famous it is for IIT coaching. I also joined IIT coaching without even realizing whether I want to be an engineer or not. Then everybody said take IIT exams and everything. Obviously I took. And then I got really good score, and then everybody told me that Delhi University mein you are so good with mathematics, LSR is one of the best college, go there. I didn't even know that whether I wanted to do my graduation in mathematics or not, but I did. And I always was being told that I have to perform the best, as in I have to top, so I did that also. Then I did my masters in mathematics from St. Stephen's. I did that and I again topped also. Why? Because this is what I have been doing all my life. But when I came to UPSC, due to some reasons, I didn't take maths as an optional, I took sociology, I started reading, I actually felt that, okay, this is how, this is so interesting. You are studying something which is so relevant. I'm not saying that maths is not, but I'm telling you my preference. Finally, I realized that what I wanted to study. Finally, after so many years of my life, finally I know that, okay, this is what I want to study. And somehow I have started enjoying studying for the very first time. I know you might find it very ironical, I have been always a studious child, academically very sound student. All my life I have topped, but I have never enjoyed. And see the irony, for once I have started enjoying my studies, but I didn't clear UPSC. So this is the irony here. But I am in a very good state of mind today. I'm just giving you an example that, what exactly it means. So if you don't discover yourself, if you don't know what you are, how you want to proceed in life, then it is very challenging. It negatively impacts your mental health, it negatively impacts your social well-being, your social relationship, your efficiency at workplace. Largely it creates social chaos in the society. So it has to be ensured. There is a feeling of relative deprivation. Why? Because even if you are earning well, even if you are well settled, spiritually you are feeling deprived, mentally you are feeling deprived, because you're not enjoying what you're doing, because you're doing something which you never wanted to do. Just because everyone else was doing, you're doing it. Is that very clear? Is it making sense? Clear hai? Now, there were certain conventional self-discovery process, for example, Mahatma Gandhi through his own experiments, through his own experiences. Then there are some Buddhist monks who indulge in chanting, meditation for self-discovery. Many saints have given up worldly pleasure in the process of self-discovery. Every year we receive thousands of foreign tourists who come here for their journey of self-discovery through meditation, visiting pilgrimages. So there are different conventional methods of self-discovery. However, in the contemporary time, it has been outsourced. I told you there are 3 dimensions to self-discovery. First, self-awareness. Second, what are your interests and liking? And third, your value system. And with respect to all these 3, we have outsourced it. The primary aspect, that is self-awareness. However, today our awareness of self is a result of the response that you garner on social media. Greater the number of likes, the more is the sense of validation. Secondary aspect of self-discovery, that is to have a clarity of what we like, what are our preferences, what is our purpose in life. Here also the technology has been dominant. Let me ask, do we like drinking Pepsi because of the pleasure, or is it because our favorite celebrity is endorsing the brand? You could have written any other example. To be very honest, I wanted my father to purchase Santro when it was launched because Shah Rukh Khan was the brand ambassador. So yeah, I was like hardcore fan of Shah Rukh Khan. So that was a time. So yes, that happens, right? So it is your, आप भी बोलोगे कि मैम क्या juvenile attitude, but क्या करें बच्चे, था तो था, अब क्या कर सकते हैं? So yeah, the third and final aspect of self-discovery, knowing your value system. However, here too, as Cambridge Analytica scam showed, our values and preferences are being influenced by the external agencies. So it is reducing our grasp on ourselves. The decision that you are making, the kind of person you are, everything has been outsourced. Not only this, you can add more examples. We fall prey to those claims as if joining the 5 AM club for success is the only way to achieve greatness. क्या करें, सुबह नहीं उठ सकते तो achieve नहीं करेंगे कुछ. Random quizzes on social media help us decide if we are calm or still long way to go for our self-discovery. There is altogether a new generation of content creators like Jay Shetty, Ranveer Allahabadia, who through social media guide people towards self-discovery. They have been named as lifestyle coaches. So obviously it has been outsourced to technology. There have been billions of posts on Facebook, Insta, which guides humans on do's and don'ts on the path of self-discovery. In fact, this process is so decentralized and convoluted that we end up getting confused, lost, and anxious. In fact, this process has been monetized, which has further amplified the growth of consumerism, thereby reducing the humans to mere statistical number into big data, which is analyzed by the giants to create more business. Is that very clear? अब सब चीज का monetization हो गया है. Similarly, there are other apps which provides music for meditation or chanting. Anyone can just put on the earphone and through soothing music can continue his path of self-discovery. So yes, it has been outsourced. Not only we have explained via means of examples, we have discussed how it has been outsourced. Now the question is this outsourcing having any repercussion for humanity? The answer is loud yes. This outsourcing of technology or outsourcing of self-discovery to technology has resulted in commodification of human personality, where every individual is nothing but a set of data codes for algorithm. As shown by WikiLeaks founder Edward Snowden, it has also diluted our control on our very dignity and liberty, that is right to privacy, with increasing cyber theft and data breach. Individuals are faced with the constant questioning existence of their uniqueness and identity. It is further supplanted by cyberbullying and other crimes which is undermining humanity. Not only this, The ramifications or the repercussions are that we have started ignoring the conventional source of self-discovery. For example, elders in the family who have so much of years of experience. Following this herd mentality without even realizing that inadvertently you are providing your personal data to the apps. It has proven to be a counterproductive exercise where you are showing everyone that you are enlightened. You are the one who has discovered yourself. However, you are actually missing out on the actual mental health advice which you may need. Because अब क्या हो रहा है कि हम एक false reality create कर रहे हैं where we are pretending, we have come under the influence of this pretense where we are showing everyone that look, we have self-discovered, we have become all enlightened. But in reality, there are a lot of mental anxiety and distress issues that we are confronting. In fact, this concept of self-discovery today has just become the it थिंग, द थिंग. आजकल सब इसी टेंजेंट पे बात करते हैं कि हम मेडिटेशन कर रहे हैं, यू नो, वी आर इन द ट्रांस जोन, वी आर डिस्कवरिंग ऑल टुगेदर अ न्यू एस्पेक्ट ऑफ लाइफ, एंड देन you're actually not realizing that you're not doing anything. You are just following that herd mentality. Is that very clear? Is that very clear for everyone out there? ठीक है. Another phase of consumerism and capitalism. ये जो concept of self discovery है, after being outsourced to technology, it has come as a third phase which is creating fear, or which is manipulating the fear of a common man. Everybody is now in that process of self discovering themselves without even realizing that what is the concept of self discovery and how it should be achieved, right? However, when you write the conclusion, the only step in the self-discovery is self-reflection and not the technology. You should look within yourself. You should indulge in meditation. You should self-reflect. You should try to explore your own personality through your own self. You should try new things and arrive at a conclusion that what you like. What is your value system? Try to examine. Give yourself some time. Do you know why we don't do that self-reflection? Because we are fearful. What if we discover a tenet about your personality which you are not ready to face? Let us say you have a preference for the same gender. Absolutely, there is no issue in that, but you have a fear that if you realize that aspect about your personality, that you have an orientation towards the same gender, what the society will say about you, what your family will say about it. So you have that fear of facing your true self. That is why you have the fear of not self-reflecting. I have just given you one example. Is that very clear? Ultimately, you need to believe, understand, a man who travels the world in search of what he needs finally returns home to find it. So no matter wherever you go in search of whatever you need, finally you come back to home to find it. So you have to look within your own self, self-reflect. This is the prescription which is being provided. Another prescription. What are the simple steps which you can take in order to start your journey of self-discovery? Let's do this thing. ठीक है? All of us, we need to self-discover. Do you really know why you are preparing for this examination? Do you really want to prepare for this examination? Do you really want to be an IAS officer? Do you even know what is the job of an IAS officer? No, I'm not questioning. I'm just helping you to self-discover. Right? So make sure, how do you take those steps to start your journey of self-discovery and finding the purpose in life? तो वही मैं कह रही हूँ ना कि द बेस्ट थिंग अबाउट फिलोसॉफिकल एसेज एंड एथिक्स इज कि सब ज्ञानी बन जाते हैं. तो ज्ञान बांट रहे हैं हम, तो ज्ञान बांटो, ले लो ज्ञान. मेक श्योर दैट यू हैव द राइट माइंडसेट. स्टार्ट विथ व्हाट ब्रिंग्स यू जॉय, नो मैटर व्हाट इट इज. गेट क्यूरियस एंड आस्क योरसेल्फ वेरियस क्वेश्चंस. एक्सप्लोर मल्टीपल सोर्सेज ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन. एक्सपेरिमेंट विद डिफरेंट एक्सरसाइजेस. Practice self-care and self-love. Test your new discoveries in life. You will automatically find the purpose in your life. Is that clear? That's one way of doing it. Another thing that can be done is, another popular way to prevent this process of outsourcing self-discovery to technology is practice digital detoxing at periodic intervals. It can be assisted by centers like Vipassana and their refuge for self-discovery. At societal level, family as a unit can play a very significant role in providing coherent source of value transmission. In fact, it can prevent the stride of technology through proper value system and socialization. Similarly, value-based education can help great deal to tackle this technological outsourcing today. Finally, meaningful usage of technology. ऐसा तो है नहीं. Mohammed Yunus has said the statement, technology is very neutral. It depends how you are using the technology. So per se it is not negative or positive. It is what use it is being put to. So if you are making good usage, meaningful usage of technology, then it can be a boon. So how it can be done? By democratizing technology. For example, Aadhaar initiative, where technology is not used as a tool to generate profit, but in furthering welfare of the people, in furthering humanity. And ultimate, कहते हैं ना, conclusion and ultimate conclusion. This can be your ultimate conclusion. As Gandhi used to say, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service of other. Thus, the path to self-discovery cannot be traversed without altruistic motives. Serving other creates a sense of fulfillment and joy, which is necessary for a holistic being. And this is how you can end your essay. Is that very clear? This is just an opinion. I am not saying that this is how only it should be written. Is that clear? देखो कितना time लग गया 4 topics discuss करने में. But I hope that whatever we have discussed, so the final takeaways is go back home, drop that fear कि कैसे ऐसे लिखेंगे. Trust me, hands on your heart, after discussing maybe some examples you were not aware of, maybe you didn't know that this example could have been thought in this capacity, उन सब चीज़ों को छोड़कर, ठीक है, do you understand that the approach remains the same? Interpretation, explanation, exemplification and prescription. Nothing else is required when it comes down to philosophical topic. However, while you are explaining the topic, while you are giving exemplifications of that explanation, you can arrange the topic, you can deconstruct the topic through various questions. The number of questions that you create, it gives you an idea that how your essay needs to be structured and how you need to proceed while writing the essay. Is that very clear? Remember the initial structure of the essay that I told. Just a sec, guys. वो initial structure याद है? पता नहीं start क्यों नहीं हो रहा. So the initial structure where I showed you the 3 parts of introduction, then body, then 2 parts of conclusion. Did you realize that in every slide we have done the same thing? In every topic we have done the same thing. That introduction have 3 parts. I have given you different types of introduction. All introductions should not be written, any one of your choice. Prescription can be of any nature, but there has to be a prescription, and based on whatever you have written so far, what is your ultimate takeaway, that becomes your ultimate conclusion. Is that very clear? The body, make sure it is multidimensional. You are approaching the topic from different dimensions. Okay? And whenever you are choosing those dimensions, make sure you are justifying your point of view through different examples. This is the final takeaway. As far as the content creation, the fodder is concerned, this is how, that is why I said I'll discuss in the end, this is how the fodder has to be created. Anecdotes, ठीक है, बहुत simple है philosophical essays के लिए. Great leaders की stories, ठीक है, the philosophers की stories, the experiences from the past, your own life experiences at different point of time. Prepare different value system that you do anyway in your ethics paper. Then Gandhiji's 7 sins, then Buddha's 8-fold path, ठीक है, Gandhiji's talisman, ठीक है, Bhagavad Gita, the basic teachings of Bhagavad Gita, emotional intelligence. These are few things which will never ever disappoint you. Your own preamble, that will never ever disappoint you. That gives you enough fodder to write the prescription. Is that very clear? Okay. Is it making sense for everyone? So on this note, I conclude the session. So from my side, the session is over. These are the detailed write-ups on the 4 topics, and tomorrow and day after we'll continue with the session. So tomorrow and day after, please stay connected with us. The remaining 4 topics will be discussed tomorrow and day after by different faculties. Is that very clear? And with respect to the basic nuances of essay writing, there is a separate session. I request the technical team, please paste the link of the session which I have taken previously with respect to the basic skills of essay writing. Is that very clear? Okay, so I hope this session has added some value to your preparation, and those who have already written mains, one heartfelt request, please, if we have discussed something which is different from what you have written, please don't be disappointed, because anyway there is no guarantee कि हम जो बोले वही ultimate है, या UPSC हो सकता है कि marks दे दे, लेकिन मेरा बस एक approach है कि context को एम्बिट को वाइडन कर सकते हैं, लेकिन कॉन्टेक्स्ट को रिफ्यूट नहीं कर सकते, और कॉन्टेक्स्ट से बिल्कुल डाइग्रेस नहीं हो सकते. दिस इज वन थिंग विच आई स्टैंड बाय. Is that very clear? ठीक है. So on this note, I conclude the lecture. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Good night, people. Take care of yourself.